Hello everybody and welcome to Tamper Tantrum episode the 5th. My name is Steve Layton. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Colin Harmon.
Howdy doody.
Gentle and giant-like. Yeah, thank you very much for kind of bothering to watch us again.
Yeah, so we're not at home today.
We're not.
We've gone on the road again. I've packed my bags, come a long way
Yeah.
up the road, round the corner, and we're here at Marco today. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but thanks very much to good people at Marco for letting us join in here today.
Yeah. No.
First of all, we'd like to thank everybody who joined us last week. Or not last week, last month.
You said last week when we said about this earlier.
I
as
tend
well.
to do last week, yeah. Okay, but that was a lot of fun.
But no, it was very cool. It was very good to catch up with Gwillem and with James and Annette and James from Dose, and very good to get all of our friends on.
Yes, and Lud was a particular highlight for me.
Lud was a highlight for most people.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched that one, it's good. Go back and if you only watch one part, watch Ross Brown.
Yeah, and we apologise for the length of it. Thank you for all the emails telling me it was long. I didn't really notice when I was editing it how long it was.
But we still commit to extremely long Tamper Tantrums in the future. That will happen. So they're falling on deaf ears, all those complaints.
Yeah, it's our self-indulgence.
That's it. So yeah, delighted to be here. Got a lot to go through. So this episode is going to be very nerdy and
Mojo-y.
Uber boilery, all that kind of stuff. So
Uber what?
Uber, yeah.
That's one of those.
Have you got one yet?
No, I haven't got one of those.
Okay.
I'd quite like an Uber boiler though.
Ding.
Do you think I'll ever get an Uber boiler?
Ding.
A product placement. I wholly
Ding.
endorse and support this product, as you've been saying all day.
Moving swiftly onwards.
Yeah.
So we suppose we start with you. So I hear you've been knocking down sandcastles, or paper castles, so to speak.
Oh, paper cups. Yes, my trip to Iceland. I went to the Nordic Barista Cup for a whole day.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain to people what Nordic Barista Cup is, for those who don't know?
Nordic Barista Cup is a competition between the Nordic countries. So we've got
Belgium.
no. We've got Denmark, who ended up finally winning it.
Yes.
Norway.
Yes. We came third.
Yes.
You win in my eyes, Norway.
Hey, I loved the Norway guys.
Yeah.
They were brilliant. They were
Cool.
really good. Who else was there?
Cafe Machine. I'm getting no worse at saying that.
Yeah. Who else was there? Come on, help me out.
So
Finland?
Denmark, Norway, Finland, Iceland, Sweden.
Well done.
Boom.
So they all compete against each other with different kind of things, and it's not just about being barista. And they had a thing where they had to design a coffee roaster, and they had to roast their own coffee, and they had all those on display.
It's like the Krypton Factor meets coffee.
Yes, yeah, but it's also about having a lot of fun and kind of baristas spending time with other baristas, and it was I mean, I only saw a very small snapshot of it, but what I did see were a bunch of kind of really cool people that wanted to do great things with coffee, and it was very good experience.
So as part of it, they have the team competition, so you have all the countries, so they have teams of 4 who are generally baristas and roasters, and then they have also the team manager. Oh, team manager as well, yeah.
Yep.
And I think guests as well, Mr. Phillips, everyone's here. Mike Phillips turned up as well, and a few other Americans were knocking around.
Yeah, I think people just kind of wanted to come along and experience it. You'd also got the Barista Magazine guys as well. The Barista Magazine guys were there covering it really well. And
Liz Clayton, hello Liz.
And hi to Sarah and to from Barista Magazine. Come on,
Sarah Allen,
yeah, and I never talked to Sarah.
I wasn't there.
Names coming up below.
Nice.
First bit of editing.
Okay.
But yeah, they were there and they were really cool. Chatted to Sarah for quite a while. There were quite a few. There were Cup of Excellence talk there. There were some other people came and did some outside stuff. So yeah, it was really good. But this year they did the Nordic Roasters Cup for the first time. Second time, sorry.
Second time.
But first time they've invited non-Nordic roasters in.
Namely?
Me and somebody from Estonia.
Estonia, I saw that as well. So there was 10 roasters.
Yep.
You finished
5th.
Not too happy?
It was cool. 5th's good. I mean, we were 4 points off second.
Okay.
So it was close.
So how did they do? How did they?
Well, this is the part that I wasn't expecting so much. But you went up, and I knew it was going to be brewed coffee, and you could specify a dose. They specified the brewer, water temperature, and the grind size, but they tell you what grind size it's going to be, roughly. So
little or big or middle?
Well, it's number 4 on a Guatemala. So you knew it was going to be number 4 on a Guatemala.
But, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was number 4 on a Guatemala.
Yeah, but like, is it? Okay, I don't know.
I know it's not precise and it's very deep, but you just we went with it and just kind of got involved. And you gave the coffees in a couple of days before. They got presented on the Saturday, and this is the bit I didn't know, but basically anybody who's in the hall can go up and get a tray of these 10 samples, taste them, pick their favourite. I kind of thought it was going to be more coffee professionals kind of tasting, and it may slightly change the way that the coffee I presented, and certainly would have changed the dose that I presented, because I presented a 57 grams per litre.
And my experience in Norwegian coffee, if they tend to
whooshka. Yeah, I mean you could see mine on the tray. I look, oh, it is. So it was. I may have changed the dose just a tad, but great experience.
You learned a lot.
Learned a lot. Got to meet catch up with some great people. And got to drink a lot of beer on the Saturday night.
Yes, I'd imagine so.
Yes.
They know how to drink beer up there.
They do. They do that very, very well. So yeah, that was my Nordic Barista Cup expedition.
Yeah.
I set off on the Friday night and I was home by the Sunday morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
A little lighter in the pocket, I'd say.
A lot lighter in the pocket. Muchos moneyos spentos.
Next year it's in Oslo, I believe.
It is.
And if you go to the link. You go there, is that right? Can I put a link there?
You can put a
okay,
link
that's
there.
the beautiful opera house in the front where we saw Anthony Johnson's recently. Gig drop.
Is that like a trip drop?
It's like a trip drop, but it's a gig drop. So
nice.
I'm definitely going to make every effort I can to get there, because Norway's cool and Bristol Cup's cool. And
yeah, no, we did. I mean, the whole time I was there, I was kind of thinking, Colin should have been here for this part. It would have been good. So I think you were missed.
Yeah. Oh, what was the picture? And see, what did you won the cups? What the paper cups? What was that about?
Oh, they auctioned up. The Norwegian team came up with an idea to raise money because they were raising money for a Costa Rican children's charity. Was that they stacked up a load of paper cups, and I, like an idiot, decided that's my kind of thing.
So this is the paper cups before.
I can actually probably put the video in here.
Oh, you got a video?
I've got a video of it.
Okay.
So I'll put a video over.
But you have to
this.
put the picture up of you in midair as well, because that's just a killer picture.
That is a kiss.
It looks sore.
Yeah. No, it was good. I didn't feel it.
Really?
The only problem was I'd got one. These were the only jeans I'd got with me.
And you haven't changed them since?
And I haven't changed them since. And there was coffee all down the leg, and had to travel home with coffee all down my leg. I look really smart.
That's like your thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Luckily, I had some clothes to change into for the evening meal, like gala dinner part. But to go home, I didn't really want to travel in trousers and shirts. So yeah. But no, it was good fun, and that was a fun part to it. I really enjoyed it. It was good times.
Yeah, cool.
So, anything else?
On news, I've been struggling for the last 20 seconds to try and think of a segue, and I can't. So, sprudge.com is the new website, and I can't think of a way to link to that, so we're just going to talk about it.
Tell me about Sprudge, because I've quickly looked at it, because somebody told me.
So
I was told that Tamper Tantrum wasn't on there.
Yeah, it is now.
Is it?
now.
Okay.
And
we'll forgive them then.
I'm on there, you're on there.
Am I?
The other black stuff isn't?
Isn't he?
No.
Tut, shame.
Maybe we can get him on Tamper Tantrum sometime and talk about that.
Who?
Yeah, I don't know what his name is.
No.
And then, so Sprudge.com, it's from the same, it's Zachary Carl?
Zachary Carl, yeah. Who did the whole
Zachary,
Tokyo... Yeah.
So there was a lot of video. Well, I know when I first got into coffee, a lot of the videos you watch from barista competitions would have been from Zachary.
Yep.
They're now all mysteriously pulled, so we obviously took them down. But
no, there was a whole thing with the domain name.
Oh really?
Yeah, the domain. I didn't re-register the domain name, and he got sniped by some domain name.
Well, I hope he puts them all back up again, because there was some really cool videos in there.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And I mean that was a great. That was the only way you could keep in touch with the Tokyo.
So it's the same idea as an American media website, which I can't remember the name of right now. It sounds like Sprudge, like Budge or Judge or Nudge. It's on the screen now. Anyway, so it's the same. It's the same idea. So basically, it's a link to all these other things. So if you're going around the blogs and you're forgetting which ones to look at, this one will basically update and tell you what's going on. So it's basically a less long-winded version of what we're doing.
Yeah,
probably.
I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Some nice looking luckies up there already. I'm going to put them there because they're shaking.
Yeah, that whole looky-likey thing that I was going to start and then kind of didn't, and then I now look like I'm copying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think the first one was very good anyway.
Do you not?
No.
Okay, putting them up on the screen now.
Do
these look alike?
Never going away, is it?
Never ever going away.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, maybe we'll get a few more before the end of the year.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah. Okay, so
other stuff.
You've been travelling.
I went travelling again. I actually went on holiday for the first time in 13 years.
Where did you bring the wife and kids?
No. They stopped at home. I just went with a bunch of coffee people on a whiskey distillery tour of Scotland.
And all of them were your best mates?
Yeah, they're good friends. I mean, Mr. Hayashi we talked about in the second one when we were talking about Japan, he was there.
Big in Japan.
I had Joel from Origin Roasters in South Africa fly in for it. Who's
featured on that programme?
The trader one.
Round the World 80 Trades?
Something trade. Yeah, that's the one.
Looks like they have a nice shop.
Huh?
It looks like they have a nice shop.
Yes, yeah. They're a restaurant, but also a roastery, and do a lot on there. And Joel was good fun. We had a producer from
Brazil.
Brazil.
Get some coffee up there actually sometime, maybe, if we can get it for.
Definitely.
Please send us coffee.
Yeah.
Good.
No. Joel has watched some of these too, so
cool.
that's good. We had Raymond from Brazil, who's got a farm in Minas Gerais, which I'm actually going to, which will be the next news bit in a bit. But he was there, which was really good, and to have a producer, but a really nice guy as well.
So that's got the Cachoeiras from there, isn't it?
Inglaterra, yeah.
Paseos there as well.
Teresina.
Yeah. I trained a guy from that region. I'm only going to try to pronounce Minas Gerais, but I trained a guy from there how to make coffee.
Cool.
And he had no idea, and he was just like, I was like, this is a little bit weird, isn't it? And he was just like, yeah. And he goes, well, I could probably show you how to pull a pint of Guinness. And I was like, touche. So that was a little bit weird.
Fantastic. Now, so who else was there? I'm trying to think of other people who were on that trip. From Union, Jeremy from Union, who was really good fun too, and Stephen Hurst from Macanta, who was in my mug while I was up there, which was cool. Who's owns Inglaterra, but also works for Macanta, our importers, and who else was on there? Jose from Macanta as well, and I know Jose watches these, so Jose's the man. And
so you had a few drinks that day, didn't you?
Yeah. I kind of never drunk so much whiskey in my life, but
you bought a bottle or two home, did you?
Yeah. Should I put a picture of my whiskey collection up that I came back with?
Ching! That whiskey collection is worth more than I will ever earn.
Yeah, and it's growing. It's terrible. I have a really bad addiction to buying bottles of whiskey.
An hilarious one though.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm only joking.
So the one thing I noticed from the whole trip, and I don't want to go on about it too much, but because it's kind of like we've got lots to cover, but the whiskey is probably a better analogy for coffee than the wine analogy that everybody rolls out, because there were so many components in there that were kind of very similar. And lots of differences too, and we were talking about this earlier about the smokiness part and the peatiness, but the complexity was amazing. And how many people say, well, whiskey's whiskey, and how many people say that coffee's coffee? It's for me
it was like that.
The palette of tastes was just like, it was stunning. You could go from an extreme to an extreme, and it's very easy to educate people on how different it is. I guess where it benefits is the finishing. And that's where I felt that it had its closest parts to the coffee part, because you can age a whiskey for 12 years and then do 6 months in a sherry cask and it'll change its complexity completely. It'll be a different beverage, and it's the same with the roasting process, that you have an influence on the end product by doing something at the end.
But the thing is that when you order whiskey, the barman pours into glass, whereas your coffee,
the barista can still ruin it.
Yeah,
the barista can still completely ruin it.
Yeah.
But interesting, great to see another industry trying, because it doesn't really have the impact. I mean, there is a very strong fraternity of malt whiskey drinkers, but it doesn't have the same impact as the wine one has. So they're really trying to find their feet a little bit, and you could see that talking to people.
There's actually a friend of mine. I'll put up a link, irishwhiskeynotes.ie. I think it's .ie. Well, the link is there anyway. It's specifically Irish whiskey. There is some Scotch in there, but it's a good website if you're interested. So he's a good guy.
That was also something that came out of it. I wanted to learn a little bit more about the Irish whiskey, because I went to Auchentoshan, which is one of the only Scottish distilleries that triple distills.
Okay.
So I'm quite keen to compare like with like, and see.
You want to get drunk? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
You want to get drunk.
It's like coffee, but you can get drunk.
Yeah, well, I suppose it has that thing. Is like you can only try so much before you're kind of frazzled. In a different way.
Yeah. No, very. I mean, that was the other interesting part, that their tasters don't actually taste.
Yeah.
It's all snows. Yeah, they don't do any actual tasting because of the alcohol content, and they can actually blend whiskies without tasting them. So can we do that in coffee?
That'd be a pretty handy thing to do in coffee if you could learn how to do it effectively.
But you can have coffee in the day, whiskey at night. It's a great partnership.
Nice.
But I'm not going to be a whiskey bore, so let's move on.
Nice, yeah.
So where have you been?
Where haven't I been? Okay.
You've been everywhere. So you were Barcelona when we were on last, which was cool.
Then came home for a while.
Yeah.
Said hello to people. Went back. Where did I go? Then I went to Tunbridge Wells, Ismail's Coffee, which is Dave Alanic of Coffee Community. They asked me to go down there, birthday there for a week. So with
worked with Dave.
No, Dave was there the week before me, and he asked me to go down. And they've done.
I was going to say because you wouldn't work with Dave, you'd be with Dave. Because I remember working Glastonbury, working with Glastonbury with Dave. Well, he just went, "Oh, you're the specials. Oh, I love you." So yeah. I'll just pull these shots then, shall I, Dave? Yeah, I'll do this. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I've got a great video of Dave on the ghost train as well. We were in Vienna. We decided to go on the ghost train.
Do you want to show the ghost train now?
Okay, right now. That guy at the end was just like, he's just randomly standing there collecting tickets, and he was the scariest thing about the ghost train. I don't really know why I went there, but it was an experience. Yeah, so after Tunbridge Wells, it was Rashid who runs Ishmael's Coffee. So it's cool. They wrote in shop, and a cool shop in there. It's a nice place to visit. And then came home for like an hour or two.
That must have pleased Yvonne.
Oh, chuffed she was.
Yeah.
Then I got a flight the next day to. Did I go to Barcelona afterwards?
No, you went to Barcelona. You came back from Barcelona, didn't you?
No, I was somewhere else before then.
Yeah.
I was in because I definitely came home and went back to Barcelona. Then came back and they went to Vienna.
Cool.
So that was a lot of fun. We got an hour into service in Vienna and the machine broke. So there's a possibility it was my fault, but I'm not sure yet. So if it was my fault, Joe, I'm very sorry. But we struggled through. We still gave it a hell of a lot of coffee, so it was a lot of fun. So Vienna is strange because a lot of people say, "Oh, you're gonna go visit the cafes." So we saw some cafes, and it's gonna. We also have this meal here you see on the screen now. That glass in the background, that's pint glass. That gives you that was one meal. It cost €14. It's for one person. It was about 2 kilos of breaded meat, deep fried, and it's schnitzel. Is that what they call it? Oh my god! Like I could eat, but my god, it's just ridiculous now. But anyway, the cafes are very classic, very beautiful.
Are you going to remember to send me these videos and these photos? And things?
Not a chance. You're going to come.
No, I'll have to keep begging and So the reason this is late coming out is because Colin hasn't sent me the videos and the photos and the links.
Now February. But that was the cafes look pretty cool, but the coffee is not so much.
Yeah, no, I pretty much heard that.
We tried the famous chocolate cake that they have from Vienna.
Good.
We met up with Cosmo, who was from Nova Similani. He was there for the night. Bought us cake, gave us beer, set us up. That was a good night.
Fantastic.
But yeah, a lot of fun.
Espresso machine manufacturers should be commended when they buy cake and beer.
They should. They should do it more. You're going off more trip drops soon, aren't you?
Trip drops, yeah. No, I booked my flights for Brazil. I booked them for the wrong dates initially, then changed them rather quickly to the right dates. I like to make it interesting.
You don't like money, do you?
No. I thought, let's keep myself on my toes.
Nice.
So I booked them for the week after I was meant to be there, but luckily changed them back without any financial penalties. Yeah. I'm going the beginning of November. Going to go to Bahia.
Nice.
To go to a farm that we've been working really closely with to help them introduce direct trade into the UK. So it's not necessarily a coffee that we import in, but we are working with is some micro lots with them. So we're going to be doing 100% Bourbon biodynamic coffee, which is kind of quite cool.
So biodynamic.
Yeah.
It doesn't yield very much.
No, you lose around about 15-20% of the yield just by being biodynamic, and then add to that.
Biodynamic, for those that don't know,
it's kind of like it follows a lot of the organic principles, but it also looks at the farm holistically, where it looks at the animals within the farm, it looks at the impact on the environment. It looks
lunar
at
cycles as well.
Lunar cycles, and then a little bit of kooky stuff about burying skulls in corners of fields, and crazy stuff. And if you take away the crazy stuff, the bit I really like is it looks after the farm as a whole.
Yeah.
So it looks after the animals on the farm, it looks after the people on the farm, the people who work there,
we are
the
animals.
families. Yeah, but it's kind of just looking at it as a whole, and I think if you look after everything, then you're going to produce some decent coffee. And the biodynamics I've seen so far, I think have got great potential.
I think generally, no matter what the food or drink it is that you're getting, if somebody's really into it, there's a good chance it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I think that's
If it means that they pay a little bit more attention, then that's got to be good. But yeah, it drastically reduces the yield, and that means that varietals that aren't suited to it are varietals that are particularly open to pest, particularly open to disease and issues. And Bourbon is probably the one that is most open to issues and most open to those.
There are some coffees that are specifically bred not to be resistant.
Caturra is a great one that is very resistant, very kind of strong plants.
And a lot of the ones with numbers and letters and all that.
Yeah, and like Mondanovo is another one that's very kind of good at that kind of stuff. But they've got some very old plant stock that's been there since the year dot, that's always got mixed into their normal lot because they haven't known what to do with it. So this year they're going to separate it out, and part of this is to go out and cut these lots, make sure everything's kind of good with it, but also see the farm itself. Get some background on it.
I suppose you pick up lots of things when you're there.
Massively, but it's also helping them to try and look at micro lotting, lots of other things too. Because at the minute they're just mixing it together because they think that that's what the market wants, and just trying to give them a little bit of what I think the market wants.
Can I throw another link?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the link here. So this is through Rasmus from Coffee Machine. So he was talking about maybe the Cup of Excellence introducing like maybe 50% of prize money should go towards improving the farm. So he was trying to get this conversation go about whether or not the farmers should be told what to do with their money, or whether that sort of iffy. So it's an interesting article. Go have a look at that, and then I disagree with that one a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I think farmers have got enough hassle without having, and also Cup of Excellence has got enough hassle watching where the money goes without kind of asking for some receipts. If
but it's a good and Klaus Thompson put a nice post in there.
And I think the other one is what's putting back into the farm. When Licho won, not last year, the year before, or finished in the top 10, they built a football pitch for the workers on the farm. Now, is that putting money back into the farm? Well, I think so, because the workers on the farm are happier, so they're more productive. Blah, blah, blah.
But like things like you going to this farm now and visiting them and telling them, here, well, if you separate them two lots, then I could pay more for them, and that sort of stuff.
Well, that's what we've done with this Bourbon. Is we've said, like, separate it out. I know that's going to affect certain things, so we'll pay more for it. But then we also asked them if they could split the lot in half and pull natural half of it and natural the other half. So and again, pay some more on top of that. So it's added value for me, which gives them added value.
So that sort of communication negates the need to put in these sort of legislative measures like you have to.
Market does a good job of marketing itself if everybody works together and there's communication.
That's key.
That's key.
Okay.
But also kind of going to Inglaterra as well, and Cachoeira, which is massive. I mean, the ones that are Cachoeira is my kind of epiphany moment in coffee. It was my
Dave Elenick's morning coffee. Pick it up in the morning.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was just the moment where I realised everything coffee could be, and it's not necessarily the best coffee in the world.
But it is.
But for me it is. It does all the things a coffee should. It's sweet, it's balanced, it's rich, it's got great mouthfeel, it's got great controlled acidity, it's just kind of everything.
I hate that word, mouthfeel. We're banning that word.
Are we?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't like it. Think of a new word for mouthfeel. It's a bit
weirdo.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're a weirdo. I don't like you.
Answers on a postcard.
Yeah. What, that you're a weirdo? I think we'll get a lot saying yes.
Yeah. Just send me postcards, actually. Don't know answers.
So Brazil, really looking forward to it. Hoping to get a little bit of video for these as well for it. Cool. Perhaps do a few interviews with the farmers and stuff.
In my mug.
Well, I'm going to be doing the In My Mugs there for sure, but might be kind of quite nice to do something a bit more general for Tamper Tantrum.
Cool.
So do like a 2-minute question and answer.
Some processing stuff could be good, like things how they process.
And maybe do some processing videos as well if I can. That'd be good.
Yeah.
And what have you done this week?
Oh, well, I've been here all week pretty much. So we had Marco were hosting the SCAE training this week for the competitions going up next week. So we've got latte art, cupping, good spirits, and cupping. So
are you competing in the cupping?
The cupping, yeah. MCing for the cupping, good spirits.
Yeah.
And possibly judging in the latte art.
Are you going to be using anybody as a role model for your MCing? Like Mr. Brown or anything
Ross
like
Brown,
that?
he's my hero.
Yeah. Are you going to dress up as a basketball player?
No, I'm going to dress up as Ross Brown, dressed as a basketball player.
And how are you going to do that?
I'll just get the jersey.
Okay. In joke, if you didn't watch last month's, you won't know what we're talking about. But we were talking about this. It was our comedy moment of last month's one. Ross Brown was sheer quality.
Yeah, he's better than us.
Yeah.
So I only came up to demonstrate latte art really badly, and so I ended up doing the course. So maybe some judging. But next week it'll be over by the time this comes out. But please go. Yeah.
Don't judge me.
It's pretty hard.
Do you feel confident judging? Is it something that you feel?
Yeah, I'm gonna like.
I actually I think
think
you are,
so.
but I can kind of. I've always
Very
shied
nervous
away
about
from it
it,
a little
though.
bit. Yeah,
I'm very nervous about it. I think you don't really want to let people down and stuff, and I don't know.
it's a lot of responsibility for
But
sure.
I'll take it seriously. I'll take it seriously and do the best I possibly can.
I certainly know when the first time I judged in the Cup of Excellence, when you're doing those ones, I felt the responsibility was huge on me. It was like kind of almost made me feel a bit ill because it was like, geez, so many people.
You're like the
affected by
bottleneck in
this.
all this hard work, you know.
Yeah. And that's to say, I mean, people now will be practicing their latte art now for you for next week.
I'll just give everyone 10.
And you'll go and go, yeah, it's alright.
It's been done. But yeah, no, that's
After your closing credits on last month's episode,
that wasn't fair.
where you were owned.
Yes, it was. James Hoffman. I'm intimidated by him. I'll just put it that way.
I just love the shake and the clink.
Clink, 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 clink. You can actually see the clink off the cup and
You
stuff.
can.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Where you got him to sign the cup afterwards as well was a little bit sickening.
Yeah. I don't know if it was. I don't know. At least I came second anyway. So anyway, moving on swiftly.
Shall we get a guest in?
Yeah, should we get a guest in?
We should have a guest because we have 2 guests this month.
Yeah. So the first guest is someone that was pretty much part of Team Ireland in Atlanta, and was huge support and since worked a good bit together and tried to keep a good bit together and have a good bit of crack together since, and someone we all have a lot of respect for. So, welcome in, Mr. Stack.
Mr. Paul Stack. No, wait, you jump there.
Thank you very much.
Be keeping it warm for you.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
This is what's the show? The chat show where they come through the doors.
The Late Late Show. I have no idea what that is unless you come from Ireland. But so
No, that's the one that Boyzone danced on.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah,
When
that's
it came
it.
out?
I know
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
we might get him to do a bit of a dance there.
Gotta put that clip in.
Yeah. We'll put a link to that clip in.
That's a pretty good one. So, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Paul Stack and I'm the operations director in Marco, which kind of means, it's kind of a funny name. I kind of like look after everything. We're a small company and that's what I do.
So, and Marco specifically, it's boilers in general, is that?
Well, I mean, really, what we do is water delivery systems, and that means for tea and also filter coffee brewers. So what we do is we design and manufacture hot water boilers and water delivery systems for different sort of things, like be it football stadia. We did Sunderland.
Did you?
Yeah, I did Sunderland.
A lot of people have done
Academy,
Sunderland.
Yeah. does that mean you can get free tickets?
No, actually, no. But
Was that Noel Quinn's connection,
The
or
last
was it
company
all-
I was with did the lighting in Sunderland's training academy.
Yeah?
Yeah, there it is. And that was before all the paddies got involved.
No way.
So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so we design and manufacture water boilers and filter brewing equipment. That's our gig, and then we sell that around the world. In Ireland, we also import and distribute other stuff. But,
Okay.
I know the first time that Marco kind of hit my radar was at the European Championships, the SAE Championships, that was 2006.
October 2006.
And I came across, and I remember meeting you and watching your presentation on it, and it was the first time, for me it was great because at the time it was
Super
very
espresso.
focused espresso, and I think the market still is a
it
huge
is,
amount,
yeah.
but it was just so refreshing to hear somebody talking about brewed coffee. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, that's great. And then you hit me with the science, and I kind of went, oh, I don't get that. And you gave me the presentation, on it.
Yeah.
And I watched it I went through it about 5 times on the way home. I was sitting in the airport going, still not getting this, still not getting. But it's kind of started to sink in the more I did it, and it was just amazing that somebody had applied the science to filter coffee. It was cool. It was
But
really
that was probably the first moment that I got really enthused about and knowledgeable that there was a real industry that I could get my teeth into. I'd been to Seattle, which was very much groundbreaking in terms of me going ding, and
I think it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways for the scene in Europe at that time. Anyway, though.
yeah, it
wasn't
probably
it?
was.
Lots
There was a lot of
happened.
people that I would see now.
Yeah.
I didn't know who they were and shook their hand in Seattle, but I went to the brewing lecture over in. Actually, funny story. I went to the brewing lecture in Seattle, which was their brewmaster course. I don't know what they call it. Their brewmaster course, and I was sitting beside a guy called Randy, who turned out to be one of the co-owners of the Clover people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he says, "Yeah, we're doing something interesting." That's an understatement. So, but then when we were doing the European Toffee Championship,
Nice toffee.
That would be embarrassing. Stop toffee.
The European
Egg on my
Team
face.
Coffee Challenge. What happened was Joe Smith, who works with me and Marco, himself and David Cooper were the first ones to set it up.
Yeah.
And so I ran it in Dublin because Joe wouldn't be a Mr. Organiser head. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I enjoyed getting involved in that. And as part of that, I delivered the filter coffee lecture that you talk about, and they kind of sprung from there.
Yeah, no, I know. For me, it was definitely the first time I'd heard anybody talking about filter coffee seriously, and as a method that was kind of could be as exciting as espresso.
Yeah.
And I think we'd agree now that it's kind of in a very different place.
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's still got a long way to go.
Oh, it's got a huge way to go, but
yeah,
then at least we're going somewhere with it.
Yeah,
And you talk to the coffee geeks of the. The community, the Hoffmans and the like, that they're more focused on brewed coffee than they've ever been.
What gets me is,
and I mean, the development of the Uber has been that kind of.
Well, it's been a nice focal point and talking point, and the Mojo is the same thing. It's nice that people are talking about it. But what I think is really interesting is I talk to top baristas, and what they always say to me is that I make espresso for a living. When I go home, I make brewed coffee,
and
that's where they play. And
I mean, that's as a roaster, I think it's not a great deal different.
You're probably true.
A lot of the time, a lot of my coffees are being used for espresso. But when I go home, I've got an espresso machine, but it's rarely used for that.
But it's the thing for me is though is that like you continuously get phone calls, emails, and people coming up to you that are my friends and stuff saying, "Oh yeah, look, you do the coffee. Just give me like what'll I do for good coffee at home?" And you go, "Well, get a good grinder, make filter coffee."
No.
How do I make a heart on it?
Yeah, that's what we need is something to make it sexy. Make people want to do it. I think.
And there's things that have got halfway there. I think look at the Aeropress. The Aeropress has got halfway there. It's not quite sexy enough, but it's made it more accessible. You look at Chemex, and the kind of growing of the Chemex has been good. Seeing more of that out there, but and a lot of the vac pots. I think that has the potential if you can get rid of some of the faff.
Yeah, that's true. Vac pots are a bit scary for people at home, probably. But I think the Chemex at home and obviously French press done properly are brilliant.
Perfect.
They're brilliant.
Really good. So this is your baby.
Yeah, the Uber boiler. Yeah. It's,
so for those four people.
Can you tell me what the Uber is? Because I don't know what one is.
It's just a water boiler.
Do you not have one of these?
I don't have an Uber.
I promise.
Yeah, you promise. He's been promising for months.
Okay.
Promising for I've got it in writing on an email.
Yes, you do.
I was getting one
after Cafe Culture.
After Cafe Culture. When was Cafe Culture for?
It was in May.
In May. Where are we now?
I just like to point out this is not synonymous with our delivery time in Marco.
This is the only reason we're at Marco now, is to ask these questions. No, seriously. I mean, there's been. To clarify the situation, that Paul didn't want to sell me one that wasn't 100%, and I appreciate that. I mean, that makes great sense.
You'll have one.
Do you want to tell them about the photograph you sent them?
Yeah,
that's great.
I'll put the photograph up now. This is where my Uber should have been. I have a PowerPoint that is running off its own circuit just for the Uber. I have a water connection just underneath, ready for it to be connected to the water.
It's on the way, I promise. Rasmus is the same. He's saying, "Where's my Uber?" There's a guy in London saying, "They're coming."
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. It's good that you wait to get it right.
Well, you see,
and a lot of people said the same with the Clover. That the Clover came out too quickly.
Yeah,
it wasn't ready.
The difference is, and this is the key point, is that the Uber was not designed to be a product for sale in a funny way. In that, what we do is we do water boilers and we do filter brewing machines, which is all fine. That all works well. And when anybody who doesn't know the story of the Uber boiler, they should go on to the. Is that how you do it?
No, you can do that whenever you want. You
can point anywhere. Did you like the one last week, by the way, where everybody was pointing?
That's good, actually.
But I'll put a link.
I don't know how that happens. They just appear. It's really weird.
Magic.
Magic of the internet.
But the story's there in short form. James and Annette and Stephen at the time in Square Mile, they were frustrated about not getting precision water delivery in terms of temperature and volume, and really the vision was theirs. And so I said, yep, we can do that. And I knew it wasn't too far away from our current technology. It was just a will to do it. And I also knew that there was no commercial reality in doing it at that time in my brain. However, what I did know, and I just like being perfectly honest with everybody about it, what I did know was that James Hoffman is the perfect marketing vehicle for anybody's brand. Myself and James go back a long way, go back pre-2006. In 2005 we ran monthly lectures in Dublin, in Marco, and actually in the local hotel for some of them. And what we did was got people in from overseas to talk about excellence and stuff. And that's when I first met James, and we did a lot of co-lecturing stuff together. And when he asked to do this, I thought that'd be great for him, because we'd learn a lot, you know, because all about precision delivery through pump and water systems is perfect for us with our brewers, you know. So Uber brewers got to be the next logical step. So when we made that machine, and he said, look, this thing's going to go mad. And I said, yes, James. you know, sort of stuff.
Oh, you know.
And then when he posted that blog, you know, it just went mad.
It just exploded.
I mean, I think
there's a big difference between making something which works in one place
Yeah.
and having to sell it around the place. You know, it's got to be right.
I think it's going to be a great knock-on effect though for the Marco brand too.
It's been huge.
You know,
Filters down.
I mean, I knew of Marco because
Yeah.
I've been to that talk and
Yeah.
I've known that the kind of passion within the company. I'd met Joe Smith before and thought, no, that's a great thing there.
Yeah.
But now people all over the world know who
Yeah,
Marco
it's been super.
are.
It's
Yeah.
been super.
And
for us.
I think
It's been
the thing where I knew it was arrived was when it was on the WBC bar.
well,
I said, this thing's going to be big.
and this is where links are hilarious. I mean, we had just made the one for KTEX. KTEX is the Irish coffee catering show, and that's where I wanted to show it locally, and it was the first time James saw it. Because he was so busy, and I told him and sent him all the reports in terms of we've got great precision on this thing. But at that stage, it was the lumps of tubes. It was just tubes and a tap. And Peter, who was the lead engineer, just did a blinding job. But it was just mad stuff going on. And then it had to be packaged because I wanted to show at our local show that we knew about brewing coffee. This is all about it. I mean, when we're selling to coffee people, if they don't think we know about brewing coffee, why would they buy a machine from us? So the idea was that they knew that we were designing, manufacturing locally and brewing, and knew about brewing coffee. And it was just to show innovation. And to be honest, most of the Irish industry said, and then we're gone. But then the interest started to kick in after that. And that's when the design came. It was just a matter of, I've got to package this thing. So James saw it for the first time at KTEX. And after that, Stephen Morrissey, who obviously was involved in the inception, it was his hand sketch, which is on the blog. He was saying, you know, you should bring it over to the WBC Brew Bar in Atlanta.
He was setting up the WBC.
He was involved in the
well,
WBC Brew Bar with Cindy Chang, and then so Cindy said, "Yeah, why not? Why don't you do it?" And I said, "What's this?" Okay.
It added another element as well, doesn't it? Because it showed that they want to showcase coffee, and they say, "Well, okay, we can give espressos, cappuccinos, steak drinks, and then if you have filter coffee at the end, it's like, oh, well, there's more to it than that."
Yeah.
Because there are people coming in and out of that show that aren't necessarily coffee people.
Yeah.
So
And the great thing for us as well is that there was coffees being made on the Uber boiler, but also I kind of wanted the baristas to take control of it. If they didn't like it, they'd tell me, you know, and it was great. It was great.
I think
feedback,
it's a big step in legitimate. That's not a word. Making brewed coffee legitimate if it's alongside espresso machines.
Yeah, well,
And-
particularly in that
It's not
in that
somewhere
sort
in
of
the back.
Can
location.
brewed coffee be illegitimate then?
The bastard child of Kithen Wimby.
Illegitimate coffee. Oh dear.
I think as well as it, but you can see now just because I've seen the first time I saw it was KTEX.
Yeah.
And then there was London, was it Coffee Culture?
Yeah.
And before that there was a WC,
Atlanta,
then
yeah.
Coffee
Then
Coffee
Coffee
Culture,
Culture,
then
then
Cologne,
Cologne, and now in
here.
House.
And you can see it's progressing. It's growing.
Yeah,
up.
I mean, what people wouldn't know is that in KTEX, obviously it was physically different anyway a little bit, but also underneath was like sticking plaster, and there were some small children holding wires together, and stuff like that, you know, this sort of stuff, and so it really wasn't.
I
saleable,
remember
you
the
know.
phone call.
Yeah.
It was a phone call. It was like 3 days before KTEX from one of the engineers saying, "Have you got any Chemexes?"
Yeah, that's right.
And I went,
Peter, yeah.
I actually hadn't got any left apart from a couple on the shelf, so I
Yeah.
took them off the site, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I can dig some out somewhere." And it
But we
was-
didn't even have a Chemex in the building up to then, you know,
Yeah.
and that was really to make sure that the height was absolutely right for a Chemex. And it was all to inspections and, you know, got to get one, you know. Oh, I need a Chemex!
That would have been
So thanks
a
to-
bit
Yeah.
embarrassing there. And they could
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, I think I took a day to get the Chemex to you. How long did it take you to get an Uber to me? Tink!
That's it.
No, but
I
that
think
was
a big part of it as well, and I think this is whether it's by design or just by accident, but coffee people and coffee nerds and people associated with coffee like to pick fault with things to show how much they know and kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, that's wrong.
We've said this before, haven't we? But it's very easy to pick fault and look really clever.
Yeah. Well, it's very hard to be positive about something unless you know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's very easy to criticize if you don't know anything.
But you invited criticism.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two sides to that. One was it was out there as a potential product. It was more of a learning sort of a thing that we were doing first. I was like, bring people on, let's know about it. Which is why I said to our MD Drury here, I said, look, just let me run with this. I want to go with the Uber project. And he said, what's an Uber project? You know, and I said, well, it's not a product because I don't have one. So it was really about a project to try and just explore and research and get better at stuff. And that's when Dave came into the picture, who is our next special guest.
Yes.
So, but Dave is Mr. Superhead, and I met him. I met him at KTEX for the first time as well, and I had read his blog and said, look, I'm looking at doing this. I know nothing about blogland, like nothing, zero. And give us a hand. Would you mind giving us a dig out?
Yeah.
And he did. So he helped me launch the Uber Project blog site, and it kind of went from there and getting criticism and feedback.
Isn't it funny that he's really good at this stuff, but he's a horrible person?
Well, yeah. I mean, I never liked him. Yeah.
No. Not much to him. Not much to him. Bland.
Yeah.
Fence sitter.
Yeah.
Fence jockey, not him.
But there was a big big call to be made after Atlanta, and that was, is this really going to become a product or not? Because that really means a lot of money in terms of investment on the R&D.
Gosh, yeah.
So we decided that we were going to launch it, and we're going to launch it next month in Host in Milan. You know, so.
But sure.
Are we allowed to talk about the other model that's coming as well that you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, where's it going? You mean?
Yeah.
The main feedback that we were getting was the first was about volume. The Uber boiler as spec'd originally for Square Mile by James and Annette was an operational capacity of 1.5 litres. 1 to 1.5 litres, and so then it's all about the maths and the physics of recovery versus water, power and the element, etc., etc. And so once we worked out that's all well and fine, so you can have a continuous working shop, if you like. And Atlanta helped prove, and Cafe Culture helped prove, we're a busy site.
Yeah,
we were able to brew and continually feed people with coffee in a cafe-like situation.
You were the busiest standing coffee.
Yeah, so that worked really. That worked well. And but then the real thing about this is a real cupper's tool, and the one we're launching is not programmable, it's a barista's tool. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make a complete mess of it. You know, but if you know what you're doing, it's going to be a great tool. But what we really need is more volume for cupping. So we're going to have a cuppers one launched, which is going to be 2 litre capacity for small short runs, but also a larger one available. That was the first one in terms of capacity. But then the other things were about its usability, and this was major feedback again particularly from James. James has won. James and Annette have won in Square Mile. Counterculture have won. Brian Ludvigsen is one of them, and Intelligentsia have won. And so they've been giving me feedback, and most of the feedback is narrower footprint. Try and get the.
That's huge. In
yeah, narrow. Like it's just money is narrow footprint. Narrow footprint. Absolutely keep the scales for the precision. To try and join the two displays into one. And of course the reason we 2 displays anyways, the Wayne scales was off the shelf, salter scales, which were ripped apart, And so what we'll have is there's a salter leak. So then what we have is the display in the front.
Do you wholeheartedly endorse that
product or service? Person, product or thing.
And then we're going to put the controls in the top. So we're going to have a flow control for variable flow. And we're going to have a little movable arm, which is nice. Mulvar's idea. So a little movable arm to aim the jet.
Like a little joystick?
So it's going to be like a little computer game.
Oh, because we were having this discussion
so you can kind of almost like agitate and stir and make sure you cover everywhere.
Well, what I'd like to do, and I mean, this thing is still, there's sweat going on over in R&D, this thing is still being finalised in terms of the absolutes. But what I'd like it to do, and if it doesn't, we'll just improve on it. But what I'd like it to do is you can fix your vessel, watch your weight, direct your jet, control your jet, and then get the absolute amount of precision you need.
That's great. So would you be able to just like spray your jet or something maybe for your balloon?
Not in this one.
Okay.
Not in this one. Yeah, that's coming. Yeah, that's another thing.
We'll just beat that bit out.
So do you see? I mean, have you kind of got trademarks and stuff on this and like?
Yeah, what we did. There was a small bit of prescience in that the very first thing we did when we got the technology was I said, this is very good, precise water delivery stuff. And so we patented it.
Good.
Because we knew that there was going to be potential, not necessarily in its guise, but there's going to be potential in that technology. Yeah. So we patented it. But we've moved the project on then in that it's very simple really, I mean, coffee's simple stuff. There's coffee and there's water, So the precision on the water delivery was one, but then there's also the grinder. And so what happened with the grind is kind of funny as well, is because we use Malconig in Ireland with the agency for Malconig in Ireland. They're really good guys, but not anywhere else.
They don't send grinders very quickly though, do they?
They're about as quick with their Varios as we are with the Uber. But what Malconig have wanted to do with us is they wanted to stay working with us, because when we were going to cafe culture, I couldn't sell their stuff and use their stuff. And I said, look, I really want to use the Tanzania, which is the Ditting 805, because it was the best I could find. And they said, well, we can do a project together. So it's a Marco Uber project. So I said, okay, but you got to give me burrs which are specific for what we want to do. So they came over. It's on the blog site again. And so editor.
Yeah.
So it's on the blog site again, and the idea is that we were able to, we took sieves and we sieved out and measured out what we thought was going to be the best for French press. And we're going to do the same. And what I want to do is I want to challenge the Norwegian Coffee Association's grind profile. Not challenge, say that they're wrong, but try and reconfirm it. Because they've got a grind profile which they publish, saying is the correct filter grind. And what I'd like to do is to just recheck that in terms of current technologies and current precisions, and see what people think.
It's always good to go back and...
Yeah, I mean, and if we come out saying this exactly the same as Norwegian, then great, then we'll try and get the burrs to match that.
Yeah, that's great.
So, do you see, I mean, as in development of the brewer, is there a price yet? Have you got an idea where it's going to come in?
Well, this is going to be brand new news now, because nobody knows this, but we're going to pitch it just under, not exactly fixed a number, because I actually don't know the costs yet, but it's going to be pitched just under €4,000 list, which is end coffee shop price.
Okay.
So then it would be discounted down in front. Well, I want to try and make it affordable, so that it can be usable. I mean, if it's usable.
I mean, do you see the technology ever perhaps going to where it could have a home application, or do you see?
Actually,
it does
I believe that there is a filter.
That's what you did there. That'd be good.
I believe it's got.
I need to lie down for a minute.
It's got a real future in domestic.
I think so.
There's a nice product called the Quoker.
Yeah.
You might know it, and it's beautifully styled. We have one down here in the canteen, and we actually installed a few for them in Ireland. And it's a domestic hot water boiler, but it's absolutely 100 degrees C. It's a pressure boiler, and for me it's kind of scary, but I think it's a lovely product. And the Uber boiler is effectively what I see as being a safer and more regulatable version of that for home. So down the line,
I just bought this kettle that you can actually set the temperature on from the kettle, and I just think it's got a massive. This would have a massive.
It's got real.
Particularly, you can imagine in like a really high-end kitchen, something like that would be phenomenal.
But we've never done domestic. Marco's never done domestic. We've only done commercial, So, but it would be a step. But I believe that there's a real market.
But domestic coffee is I think that's like
it's going to be huge.
As much as we don't like them, but those Nespresso machines or those pod machines, they're everywhere. I mean, like everybody's buying them, So
huge.
Like, we've got to give
one went for €50 for in the NBC.
Oh really? Yeah.
In the charity auction.
Nice.
That was the opening bid. Somebody went, all right then.
We were in Vienna, and I went to this one with Dave Elenick, and the most prestigious square in Vienna. They've got this 2-story shop. It's absolutely bling with all these machines. And we were kind of going, oh, this is terrible. But then the other part of it,
they're not selling coffee; they're selling lifestyle.
Yeah, but what I was saying was that like that's giving people step one, and they're all making a fortune on it. So what we got to do is maybe prepare ourselves for step two and say, well, what we can do is something that they can't, and that's where the opportunities for like home roasters and like for what you're doing, and home machine manufacturers and Uber and all that kind of stuff is,
Yeah.
People are inherently lazy, though. People
just out of my way. That'll do.
French press would be successful at home because it's easy. Chemex maybe because it's easy. And if it becomes difficult, people won't do it. I think
that's where this could come in, though. Is
pressing
making
a button.
Easy. You're pressing a button. You grind, you put it in. You've got the weighing. You've got everything there.
What I'd like to do, and God knows if we get there, what I'd like to do is have a programmable version in June in WBC London. So that you can have the super geek, profiling their coffee and saying, well, that's best at 3.5 degrees at 65 grams per litre, and then you save it, and then you can say, right, that's my Kenyan, and you press your button, and that's what you get.
It's the same as like programmable buttons in an espresso machine. Like you can go in and tell guys running a coffee shop that like, oh, if you get the people to brew the coffee themselves and stop the shots, and they want to stop the shots, just always shops say, oh, I just prefer to set it myself and let them just press the button.
It's about the skill. It's about skill of the barista. I mean, that's what Rasmus does. He lets the baristas do what they want, but they're skilled.
Yeah, but that's what in Coffee Angel was the same thing. It's like you have to learn, but some shops aren't.
But you have to work with what you've got, don't you? I certainly know somewhere in Stafford you wouldn't find, enough baristas to stick in a coffee shop to be able to have that skill. So sometimes
Same in Dublin.
take over. Yeah.
Same in Dublin.
Well, I think if you do it, then they respond. I really do.
I agree.
Well, like I learned in the space
With the
of
right
3 weeks that
people,
I
with the
know
right
space
with the
at all.
right people, you were the right person that wanted to take that information on board. A different argument. For another time.
Anyway, that's it. That's
So Uber is just, I think it's one of the most exciting things to certainly hit the coffee in the last 12 months. It'd be really nice to actually have one.
Well, what is it you want again?
But I'd say that what I was saying earlier about the main reason I use kind of the Gold Cup stuff and your involvement in the Brewmaster course. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what Brewmaster is, because I actually had somebody the other day say, "What's Brewmaster?" And somebody in the industry, and I was kind of like, "Don't you know?" So obviously some people don't know.
They
so
don't. Yeah,
explain what it is.
I will. Yeah. The Brewmaster course is the SCE Gold Cup training course, and the SCE Gold Cup is a program to try and focus the industry on brewing filter coffee properly. Okay, so it's not necessarily filter coffee through like an automatic machine. It could be filter coffee through Chemex. It's about making filter coffee properly, because what's happened in the industry is you've had this hero of a commercial potential in terms of the amount of money that's made in filter coffee, because it's through all the institutions, it's through hotels, it's through hospitals, it's through huge amounts of coffee is sold, but it's seen in all those areas as being, a bag of nails. It's a commodity, so it's just moved.
You get brickies making coffee, you get nurses making coffee, like they stop their job.
It's just a price. So the purchasing guy is saying, and who's the coffee contract with? How much is that? That's a bit expensive. 10% less, please. And it all rolls down. So it's not a quality buy. So you bring that away from that, because you'll never get in there with Gold Cup. But you bring it down to the high street even, and the high street filter coffee is woeful. And I believe the high street coffee is bad because of lack of education, more so a commercial imperative. Because if people realise, and please go onto the Gold Cup website.
Yeah, no, that's the link. That's the link I don't mind.
Yeah, do. And actually, that presentation you opened our discussion with, that I gave you, there's a version of that on our website, which you can
another link
as well. And it's just
you're never coming on here again.
But it's all about Gold Cup, and it's about Gold Cup brewing and doing it properly. And people can download the presentation from there, But it's about doing it properly, and what that does is it teaches you very simply what to watch, and then you'll get a perfect brew. If the coffee's bad going in, it'll be correctly brewed, but bad coffee coming out. But if you've good coffee going in, brewed correctly, you're in.
Yeah, and you can show the people that, I think an awful lot of the time people say that, okay, well they want me to use 60 grams per litre, but I'm only selling so much of this a day, so if I use half the coffee I'll save half my money.
But they need to be educated.
So then when they use the proper proportions and they're doing it right, people will sell more coffee.
They will sell more coffee because they'll get a reputation. If they buy good coffee, people will come back.
No matter what you do,
buy good coffee, brew good coffee.
In a global downturn, I don't think one of our customers are buying less coffee than they did 12 months ago. I can't think of one of our wholesale customers that are doing that. So it's about quality.
But people can make real profits out of this thing. The last brochure we did, which again is, I'm not going to do the line thing, is on the website. It just shows how retailers, we've nothing to do with retailers, but just want to show the industry from an SCAE point of view. I'm on the education committee with the SCAE, is that they can make more money by doing it properly. And that's really the key.
I'm going to say something fairly unpopular because you're on the SCAE committee, but for me as a roaster, the SCAE has so little to do with my business. It's kind of scary. I really don't get it. But the one thing that I've taken from the SCAE, and I think they've done incredibly well, is the Gold Cup. And I'm not just because you're here. I've been a big fan of it since your presentation. I think for me it kind of got me focused on brewed coffee, and it's raised the profile of brewed coffee. It's one thing the SCAE has done extremely well.
Well, I hope that people will. What we've managed to do successfully so far is we've run a lot of courses, and they've been really well attended, and well appreciated as well. You haven't been on one yet.
Not yet.
If you did one at the weekend, then I'd come. I've told you.
Actually, I will. I'll do it
because that's for me. Weekdays I'm working. To come on a Friday today's been really harsh.
The next one we're doing is on the 10th of November here in Marco. And
I'll be in Brazil.
It's a one-day course. You'll be on the mainland.
You should do what it has been.
Yeah. You do it anywhere.
Bring an Uber boy for it.
We could do it. I'm actually going to.
I haven't got one.
I'm actually going to use the Uber boiler in the next Brewmaster course. I'm going to let people certify themselves with the Chemex.
Oh, that's cool.
Because it's filter coffee brewing.
Sweet,
so I'm going to do it. But that's the next date we're doing that.
It's pointless me doing it then because I haven't got an Uber boiler to go back and try to get the benefits of.
You got loads of Chemex.
Actually, we could do a deal here. We could swap Chemexes for the Ubers when you start selling them. It'd be great.
But yeah, so that's what we're trying to do with the Gold Cup, is just trying to get the awareness up of how to do it.
I think
really
it's something that's
yeah.
been done very, very well,
Thank
and I say unusual for the SCA because they normally manage to ruin a lot.
Can I tell you one very nice thing that we're hoping to do on the research side, which the Gold Cup is leading as well, which is people who know the Gold Cup will know this, but there is this chart, this box that you try and brew into.
You can get a photograph of that now.
Oh yeah, thanks.
You can do whatever you want with it.
So we'll get this.
Here's a picture of Stephen's pants.
So you've got this Gold Cup box, right? But the research is about 60 years old. It's from the States, from the 1950s,
Yeah.
which came up with this Gold Cup chart in this box. And it's still respected, and for good reason. But we're going to run a research over. It's probably going to take 12 months, 18 months to actually get up and running. But we're going to get a set of tests together, hopefully with the Uber, so we'll have precision water, we'll have fixed grinds, we'll have fixed contact time, we'll have fixed coffee to water ratios, and we'll take coffees from all over the world, and we'll get hopefully Cup of Excellence cuppers to come involved, and we'll invite them in, and we'll do a blast of a day to try and blind cup all these coffees and establish, well, where is the best extraction point, and just try and reconfirm, is that standard good?
That original chart now, and I think people, they look at this chart and they go, oh, that's sciencey stuff, it's not a bit science, but that chart is originally based on taste. Like
it's all based on
surveys and taste.
It's the only way you can start. Yeah.
So, but what you have to appreciate with that is that was it the 60s or the 40s?
When that was done?
Yeah.
1950s.
The 50s.
It was a good try.
Thanks.
You managed to get both sides wrong.
And but so technology, processing, preparation, grinders,
everything from the
everything
agriculture to the technology to the testing methods to the sort of coffees.
But also our perceptions of taste will have moved on to a different
right.
place because of the things we consume and the way we consume.
Look how global the world is now in terms of what tastes.
How many times have you had so many different kind of,
and it was also
it was
very heavily American based as well because it was a US thing and the world was smaller then, so it was a whole US research.
And the American coffee scene back then would have been heavily influenced by Southern Italian immigrants, maybe, which would have been a very dark roasted coffee. I think I've read this. I think it was in Beckman's book, maybe.
Right.
It was saying, well, there's a talk about how maybe a lot of American roasters were influenced early on by the Southern Italian roasters that left Italy, and the Northern Italian roasters would traditionally be roasted a bit lighter than the Southern because they would have had more access to money and better crops and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting that we were just talking the other day how different roast profiles will affect where people say the box should be. Maybe.
Yes.
So the Scandinavian one is a lot higher up the chart. So they want stronger. It's still within the same extraction levels.
I would say lighter extraction.
Yeah,
I would say they're more on the left-hand side of the extraction. They're like the 18%.
but then stronger again.
Yeah, the way I would see a lot of the Norwegian coffee, and this is a huge generalisation. Please don't annex us. The Vikings will take us over again.
Any hate mail to idiots at Tamper Tantrum.
Yeah. But what I feel is that there's been a trend towards lighter roast, yes, but also up-dosed and under-extracted is what's happening.
I've seen a lot
nothing
of that.
wrong with it.
No, I've seen a lot of that within,
and
not just within Nordic though. I think a lot of the American kind of stuff that I've experienced.
Well?
No, very much. And a lot of the high-end coffees tend to have massive doses thrown at them.
But
in espresso too.
Over extraction, under extraction, it's kind of a dirty. Maybe.
But there was a post that Dave did about grind profiling and all that sort of stuff, and it was interesting about what one could do. So we did some tests. It was Carl was here from Coffee Angel, great guy. Carl. Ding.
Hi, Carl.
And so myself and Carl were playing, and what we did was just very simply separated out all those fines, similar to what Dave had done in his post. And when we tasted a coffee, which was all the fines were gone, so the result of technology, if you like, i.e. the grind debris, if you like, when they were all gone, we went from quite a strong coffee, but still it didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
Because there was no over-extracted edges.
Yeah.
Which is, following on from Dave's post about what inevitably what happens is the finers over-extract and they drag the whole lot with it. Go to the Brewmaster course.
It is this thing again because I remember we were doing it before, and when you get like this perfect uniform grind, you say this is great, it's really clean, no bitterness, but is there something missing? And then you got to think that maybe
Did we go about the turd in the swimming pool?
Exactly. That's gold. But yeah, it's really
no, I mean, there's a certain part we were talking about hand sorting in one of these couple of episodes ago, where you can hand sort away some of the complexities and some of the character of the cup, and I don't know whether it becomes too polished. It becomes too
anodyne almost.
It lacks that personality, but I certainly don't kind of say, oh, we should have, you know, kind of defects in there and things like that. But I think you can take too much away.
Yeah, but
and at the end of the day, I still want to enjoy my coffee as much as I want to kind of get consistency and repeatability. I still ultimately want to enjoy it. And
I mean, there's danger that we become too anal about it all, but actually, it's great that people are talking about the different stuff. You know?
Yeah, it's fantastic. No, it's definitely a journey on from 2006 when you're standing up in front of a bunch of baristas.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a long way. It's a long way.
We haven't drank any coffee yet, so maybe what we could do is we could demo.
Yeah, let's drop this one on pause, and then I'm going to go to the hand cam and
we'll demo some coffee. So who've got? Oh, actually, this would be a good opportunity to talk about it because just very quickly, where is he here? So this has come in from us today. A friend of ours, Cameron Prince, all the way from Byron Bay in Australia. Now, Cameron sent us.
Thank you, Cameron.
Coffee Prince.
Wear the t-shirts.
T-shirts I've forgotten. I left them at home.
Have you? Oh,
yes. Sorry, I meant to bring them.
Well done.
I have my Octane t-shirt though.
Yeah, I have my bread and coffee.
Cameron's going to be happy with that.
Yeah.
We'll wear them next time.
Yeah. No, Cameron, you will see them at some point.
Yeah. So what Cameron did is that they're just grown north of Byron Bay. So his crop is due to be harvested about 3 to 4 weeks, I think he was saying, and it's not ready yet. So what he did was he sent his wife and his child out, and they went out and picked some early beans because there's always some early cherries that grow. So they went out and handpicked these, and he roasted them up for us. So
that's cool. Thank you
very,
very much.
So cheers, thanks very much. So it's Coffee Prince. So if you're in Australia, or if you want to play the
we'll
shipping,
pop a link below.
There. Cheers, thanks very much for that. So we'll get through.
Okay.
So.
Right, so what we have is we've got our 30 grams of coffee. So what you have, by the way, is a weighing scales, and you've got temperature control, contact timer. We take our 30 grams of coffee, we put it into our grinder, and in the grinder, by the way, this is a stubby head, which we're going to be, we were looking at using. It's from the Ditting 805. We're probably going to use the other one, I don't know where it is. It's the one from the Tanzania. So we put in our coffee, we set our grind to whatever we want it to be. In this case, I'm setting it at just over 6 on this, which I don't know where it's going to end up, but we'll have.
That's quick.
So end up with our coffee. I've already rinsed the Chemex paper, blanched and preheated the Chemex. Okay. So what I can do now is I can zero the weighing scales, so that what I have over here is 0 ready to pour. I've got 30 grams of coffee in there, so I know that what I need is 500 milliliters, and 500 milliliters is around about 486. It's about 486 grams. What I'm doing here is I have my finger on the boost button. What's happening, you'll see, is it climbs at around about 0.1 of a degree for every second I've got my my finger pressed. When I take my finger off, you mightn't hear it on the camera, but the element then kills itself, if you like. It's off, and there's a residual temperature between the elements, so you'll see it continue to drive up about 1 degree above when I take my finger off the boost. So that's just the nature of physics. So this will settle it. I'm looking for around about, there you go, 93, 93.2. So it's settling there at 93.2, 93.3. So I'm going to pour. So we'll give it a bloom first. So what you'll see over here, I can now watch what my volume of water is. So if you go back to your 6 essentials of brewing, as a la the Gold Cup, you're talking about coffee to water ratio first. So that's managed because we can measure exactly what the coffee weight is and what the water volume is. So our coffee to water ratio is managed. We can manage our grind for each brew, so that because we can change the grind depending on whether we're doing French press or whether we're doing Chemex or whatever we want. After that, then you're talking about your temperature, which of course is being managed here. Now what I can do here, by the way, is I can give this a little boost and give the element a little kick in, and what that'll do is that'll just give it a little flick. Within the software we actually pulse the element a little bit, and therefore every 45 seconds we give a little dart, which just keeps the losses very, very gradual, so it holds the temperature quite well. You'll see there it's after popping up 93.4. So I can hold it within 0.1 of a degree on my brew temperature. All I didn't do was start my contact time, which I can do, but I didn't, so I'm not going to. So there you go. So I'm at 309 grams, 308 grams. What I'm doing is I'm working it through the Chemex. And what you want is a nice steady pour until it comes to stop, and then we go again. In total, the time will be, if it's right, it'll be around about 3.5 minutes, I would say would be nice, in total, from first pour to last drip. So you see from what I've been doing as well is I've been doing lots of this shaky stuff to make sure that I wet all the coffee. Contrary to Lord God Hoffman, who believes you just pour straight down, whereas I think you should really agitate it a bit more. But what we want to do is have a paddle here, so I wouldn't have to move the Chemex. So I'd just be able to manipulate the head. So what you'll see now, I've got 496 grams of water. So that's actually just a little over a half a litre, and that will be the coffee to water ratio I want. So we'll take a note of that. We might measure it later on the Mojo. We'll keep a sample of this. And so that gives us, what do I have, 30 grams of coffee for 500 millilitres of water. We'll take that as an input. And that'll work its way through and we'll drink it.
Right, so hope you enjoyed that little bit of wobbly, shaky, look at me, I can't hold a video camera bit. But that was really cool to see it all in action, and I'm sure that's the first time lots of people will have seen that, so
I think
thank you for that.
It's quite an easy instrument to use.
What, the camera?
The Uber boy itself, so it's kind of, you'll have that kind of usability, or you can pre-program it obviously when it's ready to go. But I think I proved Daniel that it can use it in Cologne. I did break it a few times, didn't I?
You did, yeah. Put a
Tell the story about when you broke it.
I don't know if it's safe for television, is it? Basically, the Uber boiler, but the problem was it has rubber tubes underneath, and there was an airlock.
Yeah, it kinked, yeah.
It kinked, so the hot water wasn't going up, and the top was demanding more hot water.
Yeah, we were boosting it with the button at the top.
Yeah.
So it was boiling a little underneath.
Yeah.
Oops.
We can bleep it out.
We can bleep it. That's okay. Actually, who cares?
Yeah. By the way, a quick aside. Have you ever heard "Flip the Bird" before?
Yeah.
Tantrum. Have you heard that before?
Mm.
"Flip the Bird."
You never heard it?
Only on a Tom Waits song. Never heard anybody use it before.
Yeah?
I didn't
Flip
know
the
quite
bird.
what it meant. Yeah.
Yeah, James
There you go.
from Dose decided to flip the bird last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
created me a bit of work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
there
we
you
just
go.
put this thing up.
Yeah.
What did I put in anyway?
You put a little tweet
A
bird.
little Tweety bird, yeah.
But the when we were boosting it, it was boiling the hell out of the boiler underneath, and it was it basically drove steam into the pump, and it locked up air bubbles all through the system. So after you, Colin, had to milk it.
So yeah, so this Paul was on one side telling me what was wrong, and I was looking at him and go like this, which is a really weird thing to do.
Were you milking it?
Yeah, you're kind of milking the
The
Uber boiler.
Yeah.
And then there was at one side we try to get the air.
The Uber
Oh,
Zucker.
so then you started to suck and blow.
Yeah.
Nice. After milking.
Yeah.
Family show. Family
Yeah.
show.
Beautiful.
Hours and hours of beer fun with that. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about the varietal.
Yeah, so this is thank you very much, Cameron, for sending this on to us. So this is what we were talking about earlier. Specifically, coffees are bred to grow in certain areas and for different reasons. So this is a K7. I have it here on my whatever the hell this thing is
You
called.
didn't have that last time I came to Dublin.
You lost one in Dublin.
I did lose one in Dublin, yeah. Yeah. Where did that
I
go?
have no idea. It's
No,
strange.
nice phone.
It's weird. This one says Steve on it as well.
No, I didn't have a chance to put my name on it. It was only about 3 hours old.
Oh yeah. So there we go. So he says the beans are one varietal K7 developed by the CSIRO for subtropical conditions. I don't know what CSIRO do. Probably one of these laboratories.
C-I-R-S-C-O. Sorry.
So the parent stock for the K7 variety is believed to have been selected by R.H. Walker from the French mission trees on his Legité estate in Muhoroni in Kenya.
Are you having problems with the talking again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Munster maybe. I don't know. So yeah, cool. Thanks for that. And,
Yeah. No, thank you very much for sending that in. That's cool. And if anybody else wants to send us coffee, thank you.
Yes.
So, what is it we were going to do next?
I think we better get the man himself out.
The one.
The one of them. So we.
The only.
There can be only one.
There can be only one. Now, viewers of Tamper Tantrum may wonder who this David Walsh character is that we've talked about. We tried to get him on camera on the pre-Tamper Tantrum one that we did in Atlanta.
Tamper Tantrum, the prequel.
Yeah. Which, if you haven't seen, I will put a link below to that one because I think it needs to be seen.
Tamper Tantrum, the prequel. Elfin's Revenge.
So, David wouldn't come on that one, and then David doesn't really like cameras very much, does he?
No.
He likes to stand behind the camera.
He does. He makes some of the best videos. On the internet.
He is very, very infamously featured on Requiem to Atlanta.
Yes.
which is brilliant.
Brilliant. And I seriously mean this, not just because he's coming on. It is my most favourite video on the internet.
It's on his blog. He needs it.
I love it.
Yeah, he made me semi-famous with his little Irish Barista Championships one as well, with the music from the Karate Kid.
Oh yeah.
That was brilliant as well.
Yeah. And of course the Guinness.
Oh yeah, with Fergus.
So we're going to put a whole links to the videos below, and you must go and watch his video. David is
something of an enigma to most people.
Yeah, he's a bit of a kind of hero to the home kind of. You know, I'm always impressed by David's knowledge when it's not his full-time job.
Bit of a fence jockey though, isn't he? Sitting on the fence and not saying.
Oh yeah, he's not one for opinions, is he?
No.
No, he doesn't like opinions. But I think we should get him out and Mr. Walsh. He does exist.
I think we bigged you up enough.
The coffee ready?
Have we bigged you up enough? Have we given you like kind of enough of an entrance?
We're all in shot.
It's all downhill from that.
Have a coffee, it'll feel better.
Yeah. So, who are you and why are you here?
I'm not sure why I'm here.
Firstly, because you're our friend.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Pretty key. Oh, so you're not sure if we're friends
Fence
or not?
jockey.
Well, like I'm a mere mortal, I suppose. You know, compared to you guys.
We are all mere mortals.
No, I'm David Walsh. I am, I suppose, a home barista, but what I'm actually I'm as a scientist, working in university. Like coffee a little bit. You know?
So coffee's kind of like the hobby. It's the part-time job.
Yeah.
So kind of, how did you first get into kind of the specialty coffee part? The kind of like, you know, how did you kind of suddenly think, right, I like coffee and I want to explore it some more?
Yeah, I would have started with espresso.
Okay.
You know, I can't remember where, but it was either in London or on a trip to the US or something. I just got more interested in, you know, espresso and espresso drinks. Started with the real terrible steam espresso things that everyone buys one of.
Steam toys.
Yeah, like that cost €50 or something and produced terrible.
Yeah.
And when I was doing my degree, I remember studying for third year exams or something, and I would have drank pots of coffee out of one of these things, like at a time.
Yeah.
And all in the same shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Keep it running. That's fine.
Yeah.
Can I confess to once boiling milk in a saucepan and whisking it with a whisk to make a cappuccino?
What, you mean you didn't have one of the little aero latte batteries?
No.
Because I did.
Never not.
Oh right.
Mm.
How long have you been doing this?
I still do. Still do.
So you started with a steam toy.
Yeah, like so. Just
So many do.
I think I almost went the whole espresso route as far as I could go before I started getting interested in filter coffee, and that's pretty much all I'm interested in now.
Yeah.
Like my espresso machine, which is a very nice espresso machine, doesn't get turned on for weeks at a time. So yeah.
No, same. I mean, same here. I do espresso at work, so I don't really want to do it when I get home. It's espresso machine kind of sits a little bit more idle. So, your blog, theotherblackstuff.ie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know the one that you used to post on.
Yeah.
Kind of quite interesting in for a home user, the kind of depth that you've gone into. Is that the scientist in you, or is that just a curious kind of person inside of you? What kind of?
I think it's just a natural progression. Like if the blog is a year and a quarter or something like that old.
Is that all?
Yeah.
It's only been that long.
Yeah.
Geez, only a year and you've given up on it. That's good.
Yeah. And even in that time, there's an enormous change in what I found interesting.
Yeah.
You know, the early days I was looking at espresso coffee.
I think it's interesting if you go to your Vimeo account and look at the first videos and look at what happens as the videos go through, and it definitely changed. You can actually see that progression of where your taste has gone in coffee.
Yeah, like it was meant to be an Irish thing, because like there was nothing in Ireland in terms of discussion about coffee. Really.
Yeah. So we had boards.ie, but it's
Yeah.
for every question about how best to use your backpot, there's a question about which is better, Nescafe or.
Yeah.
I must admit that boards.ie scares me because I kind of look at and it is so diverse that it's like, whoa.
We do talk about a lot about that here.
But there's
We do,
still,
yeah.
It's like a chat room for Ireland. It's just Ireland's chat room.
Well, that's
And what
okay,
I love
though.
about it is
Yeah,
that
but it's
if you want to know about, you say, oh, I don't like that picture frame, you can go to the picture frame forum and talk to somebody who's obsessive about picture frames, and there will be somebody like that, and you'll always get an answer.
quick aside, remember on the train on the way back from Coffee Culture?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We were talking about, and there were these two women across the way, and they were on their way home to Dublin as well. They were on the train to the airport,
Yeah.
and they were saying, I mean, like this whole like thing about coffee. I mean, it's
Just
ridiculous.
microcosm.
You know, it's just like there's so much energy and so much fine detail about that. I was like, yeah, we were saying, yeah, there probably is about paper clips as well. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like pause. Actually,
Yeah.
you know, patent, the first patent was about paper clips, and it's I better stop there.
after they finished slagging us off, we were like, so what you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we came over for a flower show. All the way to London to
look at flowers.
Lunatic.
I saw on who was it? There was a blog posting I was reading late last night. It was talking about porridge making.
Oh yeah, brilliant! I saw it.
Yeah, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was somebody was talking about porridge.
Emily
making.
had a link to it.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. I was
I'd love
just
to go.
like, yeah, but you just think that there is just craziness
Yeah,
all over the
World
world.
Porridge
isn't there?
Championships.
Yeah.
So I think it just continuing on there from boards. I know from my perspective got me really into coffee because it allowed us to do these group buys. So what we do is we get together, buy. We talked about this before, but like buy from a roastery and bring it over and share it out. So that's how we first met.
Yeah, it was I think the second group buy, and you offered to be the donkey,
I did.
and
To be the mule.
Mule.
I ended up being the mule sort of,
Oh yeah.
because the coffee got stuck in a depot,
Mm.
and instead of waiting for it to,
You drive and get it, is it?
yeah,
Right.
basically.
They've got paid.
And where was that from?
That was from Intelligentsia.
Okay.
And they sent us the jute bag, didn't they?
Yeah, sent us Cashware's jute bag.
I'll give you lots of them if you want to.
we thought this was the at the time. since
Oh,
Paul's
all
already
right. So
there.
no Paul swearing
Yeah.
yours.
Yes.
Who? We.
Stark says it. Like
Yeah. I'm gonna say cuss words now.
And then we did 49 parallel after that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And,
that was great.
So it got to the stage for me that the Irish competition was coming up, and I had to do all these blending and stuff, and basically, so Carol was giving me a hand and all that, but when Carol's got busy with work and wife and kids and all this, and we needed, Dave was like obviously had this interest in coffee as well, so I was like, well, do you want to come down and help me too? So he was coming down, and I was like, oh, he's a hobby user, I'll come down, I'll put you on the team, it'll be great. So of course, Johnny Big comes down and starts telling me what to do and starts putting out things in coffees, and then he's like, well, this is that, and I'm like, Jesus, it does. So I was working in coffee, and he's educating me about it, and I think like his role in the Irish Barista Championships, and then after that was just immense for me, and it kind of pushed me along as well, because you need somebody to bat off all the time, you know.
And while that was going on, we started to talk on email a little bit, hadn't we, about because you did some testing.
No, he's my friend.
Be more. This is. Well, I was actually coming to be the part where the reason that we kind of know each other now and we do these silly little videos every month is because of you.
Yeah,
Because I was talking to you about the Beamer and you were doing some testing
Yeah.
with me on that, weren't you, and kind of helping me out with that stuff. And it's kind of weird the way it kind of came together that you were the conduit for us.
Is that
all
how
getting
you
to
ended
know
up
each other.
supplying the coffee for your finals?
Steve bribed Dave to force me to use his coffee.
Yeah, that was pretty much how it went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's so we basically actually at the time.
So a lot of people don't know the story of how we came round to using the coffee, do
Okay,
they?
yeah. So
It's-
basically, we'd use coffee from Russell Bailey in Belfast, top guy. And
Top
then
man Russell is a really good
what we
friend.
needed for WBC was something that was really fresh, and I was speaking to Russell, and he was kind of saying, oh, we might have this or that, and he wasn't really happy with what he had. So he said he'd send out some samples, and you happen to have a lot of stuff really fresh and that we could use. And Russell was Russell basically he sacrificed a big opportunity for him for the sake of us, because if we could have waited 2 or 3 more months, he would have had something fresh. But he said, look, if you want to do as well as you can, get something that's fresh, and if I can get it for you, brilliant. If I can't, go with somebody else. And that's I've always
big of him,
Yeah,
like, because
no,
it was
it's
very easy. I
amazing.
really wanted to go with Russell, and he really wanted me to go him, but he said, look, if you're going to do well in the competition, you have to do this, you know. So I think Russell is kind of is an
The time
unsung
scale
hero.
was short.
Yeah, it was really short. We had what, 3 weeks.
6 weeks.
Well, 3 weeks to decide, and then 3 weeks to practice.
Well, it wasn't even that. Was because you didn't make the decision. You put off making the decision, waiting for Russell to see what could come through. So we talked about it, but we hadn't actually done any work, and it was kind of like it was a stressful time because we really
2.5 months, really, didn't you?
Well, it was 2.5 months, but we didn't start talking until 2 months in, and then we didn't make the decision until a month before. So it was pretty close.
Yeah, we had a lot of hissy fits in the apartment, didn't we?
We one in particular.
Yeah, we had one particular hissy fit in the apartment. That was funny. We didn't have any coffee, and I was like, so Dave comes up to plan the 6. It was 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and there were 2 of us there, and like, so what are we gonna do? And I'm like, we have no coffee. So I decided, like, what we should do is we should plan the trolley. And Dave hadn't come halfway across the city to talk about trolleys at me. So I was like, well, what about the coffee? And I was like, well, I don't have any coffee. But you need coffee. I know we need coffee. We don't have any. I know we don't have any coffee. We'll get some coffee. It's 8 o'clock. We don't have any. And this went on for hours. So that was hilarious. But after that, it was we insulted each other enough that night. It was nice and comfortable.
We got it out of our system, I think.
Yeah. So we established we hate each other, so we can go for it from here. But then I think, well, the thing that we drew up a list of about 8 roasteries that we could go to, you know. And Dave said, look, well...
And they all said no, and then you were 8th one on the list. It was like, oh, yeah, what are we going to do?
No, I've never heard of you. So we sent... Dave said, look, I'm talking to Steve, so I'll wait you to send him an email, because I was mentioned to him, whatever. So sent Steve an email, and then every box that we had was ticked within an hour or so. Yeah. And I think Steve's enthusiasm was just... It got to say to her, we were like, well, why should we keep on searching if we found exactly what we need for this from Steve? So I think from day one, the commitment was there, and the enthusiasm was all we needed. So after that, we ended up choosing blends.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Or?
Yeah, so Steve was sending over what seemed like about 3 shipments a week.
Yeah.
Via DHL or FedEx or someone, and
into my mommy's house.
Yeah, so we were getting kilos and kilos of coffee.
It was around about 80 kilos were sent in about a space of about 4 weeks.
Yeah, because we had to wait for we had to wait for the Aurelia to be delivered.
Yeah, it was also we were sending like we did a whole batch for Atlanta as well, didn't we? Where we had about 12 kilos to choose from on the day.
Yeah, different roasters.
Yeah,
I went over twice as well. Once with Dave. And
yes. Yeah.
The first time I went over though, you hadn't actually committed to anything, so
no,
we kind of just
Second time
really
he hadn't committed. When you came across, we did a tasting and he ruled that he didn't want any of them. Yeah. So it was
no, did I?
No. You were more confused than when you started. So that's when we started the blind samples. Was after that.
Yeah.
We didn't actually have the privilege though of giving the coffee enough time to fully rest at any stage. We were
too eager.
Well, it's not even too eager. We were just under so much pressure for time. Yeah. We had to taste the coffee.
And that's pretty much the reality, though. When certainly when I'm sampling my greens as they come in, that's the reality of it. I always cup it too fresh so you have to see past how fresh it is and hope that you know where it's going to be.
Yeah. So, I think for a while we thought that Steve had a mindset that was brighter than we were looking for, but in reality, it was just they were too fresh. Yeah. So we spent a little bit of time kind of back and forth on that.
Because you ended up going back to one you'd originally discounted, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and they were all still just numbered.
Yeah.
As well, we didn't know what was in any of them. Yeah. And
very very key to my thinking was, I didn't necessarily want a single origin or a blend. I wanted it to be the coffee that chose it. And I always feel that if you know what and I did the same with James Hoffman when he did the UKs and Burn, where he only ever got blend numbers. These are the numbers, taste them. If you like them, then as soon as you task me, I'll tell you the numbers, tell you what they are.
They all say, oh, this year what I'm going to do this, and then they tell you the story about how they're going to do it.
We hadn't got time to do that.
No, we hadn't got the story will emerge.
What we wanted was a coffee that tasted good in espresso and tasted good in cappuccino. It was that simple.
I couldn't afford 2 grinders.
So by taking all of the varietals away, the stories, the histories, whether it's a blend or a single estate, for me just made it clearer, and we were going to make a decision a lot quicker about where you were heading towards, what you wanted. That was my thinking with that one.
So we eventually we thought about Inglaterra for a while.
Yeah, that was as an espresso. It was whoa.
That was the Canario.
Yes, it was beautiful. It was like pineapple punch. It was just beautiful. But then we put it in milk and it just disappeared. But if we had a week or 2 to work on it.
Yeah. That was the thing. But also we were struggling against. We'd got around about 12 kilos left.
And I
at
think
that stage.
Yeah, that was the other thing you were saying. Well, Colin, if you want that coffee, make up your mind quickly. So I had to pull it off the website.
Because I had to pull it off, and I actually did pull it off for about 3 weeks, waiting for you to make your decision on it, and it sat there. No, it's okay because we hadn't got enough of it. It was such a limited release. I mean, it was tiny. So,
but that made. I think if I had the resources, maybe I should have just asked Terry Z from Espresso Parts. But if I had the resources and had 2 grinders, what I would have done is done that with espresso, maybe match it Marco with cappuccino. But I don't know. Anyway.
So it came down to 2 anyway, at the end, which was it not 2?
What was remember the fancy damn box? What was in that?
It was
Smith Farms Kona.
Yeah.
And
Cashmere?
I think it might have been.
Which would probably translate at about €74 a kilo, I would imagine. Something like that.
Well, the cost never seemed to bother me before that.
But that was kind of, I remember thinking, we tasted it, we thought, that's great, and he told us what it was afterwards, and we're like, we can't go, because you want this, you want the little farmer story.
It's not just that.
The Kona.
It's not just that. It's the Kona. You kind of think about Kona, and you think about a mass-produced kind of, a Jamaican Blue Mountain style. But that Kona we bought because it was really tasty. Primarily that was the number one with it. It was a tasty Kona.
I would have liked Kona as an idea thing actually more than the Magic Market, because no one would have any expectations of quality.
It was
for a Kona.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's this thing.
They see it as a marketing story as opposed to a coffee. Yeah.
But would it be seen as, he's coming out of left field, or he's coming out of left field?
He hasn't a clue.
Go back to left field.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
I was shocked when you picked that one out. That was, I mean, using your left field. I think I actually used that. That was the one I threw in as a. They won't go for that, But I mean, I tasted it and I liked it, and I thought it's interesting, but I thought they'll never go for that.
Well, we saw what it was. We were like, oh no, because they just picture like a whole stand of people going, Morrissey wouldn't have picked that. That was. So then, you had to go tell your wife that you were going to Atlanta for a week.
Yeah.
Because when I went to the competition, I said, partly if you win, you get to bring a person to the WBC, and you're like, yeah, and I was like, you're coming, and I think you kind of took it with a pinch of salt when I said that.
Yeah, like I figured you'd be using Yvonne for that, like, or.
No.
We're going to have to bring it back to Oslo now.
Yeah, like Marie agreed early on that I should go for it. Like it was a good, kind of opportunity that wasn't like he'd come around too often.
Yeah.
Ever again with Colin.
But it actually,
you'll be in London next year.
It actually materialised. It was a slightly different story, but she was happy enough.
But it was, I think, a big part of it for me is that like on the day what I did, like when you're on the stage, you can't taste coffee. Like you can't go, no, this is bit of strawberry in there, and a bit of toffee in the back. You can't do that. What you have to do is you got to watch the coffee, look at it, and go, okay, that looks good. And like the way it looks, I think that's going to taste nice. And then you got to give it to them and hope that what you're saying. So what I was doing to the guys is that like I was making saying that looks good, bring it back to them, and then they tell me whether it was good or not. And that was an invaluable resource for me because I kept the 2 of them there. And like it wasn't as if they're both saying, like at the time Steve would go yeah and Dave would go no, and then it would be the other way around, But when you got both of them on the same page, it was really good because I can't taste the coffee up there.
Yeah.
So what I had to do is I had to kind of calibrate what I'm looking at to then go hey, So once I can do that there, I did it. It was on stage. It's the same thing. So
muscle memory.
Yeah, and but you ended up having to scrub my trolleys and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Beautiful, wasn't it?
Terrible wash-up area at the back of the WBC.
Yeah, there's no hot water either, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there was just a trick to getting hot water.
No, I don't think there was.
I think I got some eventually.
Yeah.
I think Willem got hot water, but nobody else did. They turned it off for him.
I think what had happened was the top colours mixed up or something.
Really?
And you ran the hot tap and there was just cold water coming out, but no one ever checked the cold tap.
Did you?
I think I did eventually, yeah.
Yeah, we could bring an Uber boarder next time.
Good story.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have to bring the Uber boarder next time because we're going to get rid of the signature drink. Yeah. We're going to have a brew.
Let's hope so. Jeez, that would make sense.
The right thing to do.
So Atlanta, I think for me, I'd say one of the highlights was kind of getting to know you a little bit better and kind of finally detesting you and hating you. But no, I thought it was really cool because he was crazy, and we could just like be nervous together. It was really good.
No, we were shitting bricks.
Yeah, we were. We
Yeah.
were. We managed to destroy a camera as well, didn't we?
We did. We kicked the living
Yeah.
LCD out of my 400D.
Yeah, which was good.
In a kind of Italian 90-esque celebration.
Well, he was wearing John Aldridge, you know.
He
I
was.
was, yeah.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why we all went so, and I went mental a little bit. Like why we all went so mental when they announced the top 6 was that, like, even going before, we were aiming for 5th. That was the aim, because we had 4 people ahead of us.
Yeah.
And then, so they called out 5 competitors, and Carl Starr hadn't been called out yet.
Or, no, you were 4th,
Fourth.
and they hadn't called Carl, and they hadn't called Sammy.
Yeah.
So we were like,
Yeah.
he's a goner.
Wow.
Let's go Sammy's team.
That was
We were on
kinda-
our way across there.
The catapult that kind of drew us back, and then
Yeah.
boing.
Well,
Yeah.
I was in JFK when you texted me.
Yeah.
And because I had to go back to go mind the kids, long story. And so I was on my way back, and I got the text when I landed from Atlanta to JFK, and I was like, all it was we're in, and that was it, you know. So of course I text back. You have to bleep this out, right? So I texted back, fucking beauty. and whatever I did, right? I sat on the phone and I texted my wife 37 times, fucking beauty. And I guess I get this terse text back. Stop texting me.
Quality. Oh dear.
Yeah, but there it is. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's pretty much. Oh, that is good. So that's how David kind of became known to us two, kind of separately, and then then as a team Ireland, as an adopted son of Ireland, as Mr. Stack kindly said I was on the Saturday.
Indeed. No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So, so the blog, the way it's developed, you've seen this focus from, kind of as I say, very espresso based, right through to the one of the videos that you did around about 3 months ago with the brewing reverse vacuum.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't know what that is, what we're going to do is pop this on pause now, and then we're going to do a reverse vacuum, and then.
Well, can we just say, just before we go to that though, a lot of this comes from the brew cup, the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
So when you get, like, if you're using the right ratio of water to coffee, and it's a little bit kind of how fine your grind can go and your steep time and that kind of stuff. So if you could.
You were playing with this after you did the Gold Cup course, is it?
Yeah.
Is that right, time-wise? Yeah.
No, like practically nearly every blog post I've done since the Brewmaster has somewhere in the first paragraph gone, well, I've been thinking about this since I did the Brewmaster course.
Yeah.
And it's not, in a way, it's not something directly that was in the Brewmaster course, but it was like just a set of tools, and everything since has been kind of playing with those, or
And that's what I love about the Brewmaster. It's not just about filter coffee; it's about how coffee should be extracted, and it can be played with. It's so valid for espresso. The training in it is valid for everything, and it's perfectly valid for what you're going to do now.
And one last thing, because I'm not going to say any more nice things about you after this one, but I think it's really cool that the SCAE in Ireland has embraced somebody like David, who's got that knowledge to come into Brewmaster courses, to be a judge as part of the Irish Barista Championships.
And compete
because
in
to
the
tell you
cup next week.
because to tell you something in the UK one, I don't see it happening in the UK one. Somebody like
They
that.
draw the line under it.
Well, I think
there is that kind of.
maybe you need the right person, and maybe David is the right person to do that.
You need someone rude enough to come in and demand it.
Yeah, maybe you did, but I think it's really, somebody who's, and I've said this for a long time with the home roasters. I've learned so much from talking to a home roaster about what they've done, because they have time to play and to really get into it and to donate to it. During the core working day, I don't know about you.
Yeah,
don't get time to
I
play.
don't get chance to play.
When you're
and
working,
experiment.
people say this is the way it's done when
That's
you're
right.
learning, and you go, okay, and then you do it that
And
way.
there's a commercial imperative,
Yeah, so
as
there's
opposed
a
to a
guy-
learning imperative.
The guy who's at home is going, oh, how the hell? Well, let me see, and they figure it out. Well, this must happen this way. This must happen that way. And a lot of things like timers on grinders, like that came from people putting camera timers onto grinders so they can grind specifically. Weights on,
Well, look at the Scase.
Scase.
The Scase device came from a home user,
It's all home
that
users
wanted to
stuff,
do
yeah.
that, and that's, I don't know, it's just not happening enough.
Yeah.
And I think
There's that wall between them. I know, like a lot of baristas.
Hey, hats off
I
to-
gotta kind of slag off to people. The guys in the blogs and the forums, the home users and all that. But And I was a bit like that when I met you as well. I was sort of like, well, I'm actually a barista. And then he comes in and shows you the way things are.
Well, I think that there's innovation comes from knowing what the hidden needs are, and the hidden needs are being found by these people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's so if you can get those things, what the people who use the equipment want, as opposed to what the marketeers and the accountants think people want.
But from now on, I'm going to be nasty to you, and it's no more nice things, okay? Because it was really made me feel quite ill.
Yeah. Wasn't it Denmark? I think it was Denmark. They had the home users versus championship.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not sure if it was Denmark, but it was great.
Yeah. So you'd be pro that then, would you?
I would.
Yeah.
Really good idea.
Yeah. So you have to be.
And I tell you something: if you can't find sponsors for an event like that, then there's no sponsors to be found, because you can imagine for the home use, the sponsors will be falling over them. So I know as a roaster to home use, I'll be falling over myself to sponsor an event like that. So
there you go. Steve's going to host the UK.
no, sponsor and host are two very different
That's
words.
very good point.
Can I be Nick Joe?
Ross Brown?
What? Rude and arrogant? Sorry, Nick. I love you, Nick. Really sorry.
You're dead. He's going to kill you.
See, I can edit that though.
We don't know him. We don't.
I love
endorse
Nick
that comment.
really.
Yeah.
I had a man hug off Nick.
Yeah. Oh, I too am terrified of him. But okay, so we're going to go to
I need
possibly
coffee.
the greatest coffee brewing experience that anyone has ever seen ever.
Can we have some background music while we
describe it.
film this one though?
Dun, 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 dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun,
Something
dun.
like that.
Yeah. Right, back in a minute.
Right, go.
Okay, I'm just going to preheat everything first. Okay, so I've just ground the coffee, 15 grams. I have my water here.
How fine is that coffee?
That is as fine as the Tanzania will grind.
Just pretty much Turkish.
Yeah. So, Colin, when I pour the water, you start the timer?
I will.
And then tell me when 10 seconds of toast.
Okay. 5, 3, 2, 1. Now.
Give us a talk of what's happening, Dave.
Basically, I have a vacuum pump here. The water's flowing through and it's creating a partial vacuum, which is sucking air through here, which is sucking the coffee down. Now, I have to remember to take off the tube before I stop the vacuum this time. So, there's a vacuum within here, so that coffee appears to be boiling, but it's not actually. Alright, so I'm just going to touch this now. If I stop the vacuum before I detach the tube, you can get a backflush of water into the system. So, right. How's that?
So we're back. You may notice a little bit of a change in the audio quality. We've had to drop the mic on there, so we're going to try and speak up a bit more because the battery's going on the mic. We've been talking so long. Thank you.
Have a fresh cup.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. So, Dave, take us through what was happening in that whole process.
Yeah, so I kind of had to kind of focus on what I was doing just there, so it was kind of hard to explain. But basically, there's a small device called a vacuum pump, which I've attached to the tap. You could use a mechanical pump to do the same thing. It's just to create a vacuum. And I've attached it to this, which is a Buckner flask, which basically has this socket, I guess, to attach a tube. And I have the top of my vac pot up there with a cloth filter. And the vacuum creates a vacuum within the flask. But because the tube of the vacuum of the vac pot goes down below this, the coffee doesn't get sucked in.
Okay.
So that's basically it. And the reason I wanted to do this was partially due to grind sizes, and I was discussing fines and things like that, and I got to thinking that, well, the finer you go with your normal grind, the less difference there is between the extraction of the fines and your normal peak. So
Essentially, your normal grind becomes fines.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing was surface area and how even the coffee is extracted, because the coarser you are, you know, you're going to have a less surface area. There's going to be more coffee that's not directly touching water, that the water has to penetrate through.
So you get grounds that have the core of it that aren't being extracted.
Yeah, well, that's a hypothesis anyway. Like it's,
So that's why you get more bang for your buck.
potentially. So I brewed it. Like, it's not a very convenient way to brew coffee. Like, but I think it shows that you can brew a good cup of coffee very fast.
That takes all of 50 seconds. Like
Yeah.
50 seconds, really fine grind. So you're getting really, it's really efficient because there's nothing that you're not brewing.
Yeah.
It's really fast.
Yeah.
It's potentially really clean. Obviously, this isn't the most. There's a guy in a factory somewhere who could do this on a mass scale.
Oh yeah, like I think this could have, you know, applications.
So you're basically giving out your idea to somebody else.
Oh, well, it's
Dear
not,
Mr. Patent Man.
No, I wasn't the first person to do this. There was definitely a thread on Coffee Geek.
Yeah.
Several years ago, where someone used a buckler flask with a hand pump, hand vacuum pump.
Yeah.
Problem there maybe is just that it just doesn't have enough strength.
Consistency either, kind of fluctuations or whatever. So can we drink it?
Bring it on.
Right.
Enough of your talking.
Just a little slippy bit now if you don't want to be taking it wrong.
I can't remember which coffee
I
this
was
is.
going to ask what coffee we're drinking.
Oh, it's the Tim Wendelbo Wheeler.
Thank you to Tim Varney for the gift of it, from Iceland. Very kind of him, thank you.
Very Icelandic name.
Well, we're in Iceland. He very kindly made me feel bad because I hadn't got anything to give him, but he brought me some coffee.
Okay, well the first thing that strikes me about it is that it doesn't have. You'd imagine that coffee that was ground that fine would be a little bit bitter. There's no bitterness there, really, is there?
It's a clover for a Purman. I like it.
Yeah, no, that's
It is.
I think people have called that before on that Coffee Geek thread, called it Poor Man's Slower. It's funny, like Nick Cho's since subsequently has been saying on Coffee and on Twitter that he's never, you know, he doesn't think you can have a good cup of coffee in under 3 minutes. It's just you need that time
Extraction time.
for the coffee.
I kind of with
the
him.
flavours
on that
develop.
one, generally.
Do you think?
That's where I generally sit. You know, I mean, I've always, I loved what the guys did with Clover, but I always felt that there was, talking about this off camera, that there was a commercial imperative to try and get a cup of coffee in a commercially quick enough time, like within a minute, and still have a good cup. And of course it can do that, but when you lengthen the brew time, you get a better cup.
Well, me and David did an experiment with the Mojos that we're going to go onto in a moment with the Clover, and we were brewing around about 45 seconds.
That's where we started, yeah.
We started and we're not really getting there, and we were mojoing it going, no, we're not really there. Then when we took it to 2.5 minutes, so under 3 minutes still.
Yeah. Unlucky Nick.
So close with his hypothesis, but we took it to 2.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and it was like a different cup, wasn't it? It just opened it up, it gave it the body, and you lose that. I mean, with this one, I'm going to get a little bit of metallicness, a little bit of thinness.
Thinness at the start.
Yeah, and we replaced that in the Clover by a longer extraction time with body. You know, it gave it some oomph.
And it wasn't updosed.
No,
It was
no.
60 grams per litre.
Yeah, we were working on the same parameters as we were on the 45-second dose, but completely changed.
That's where I am. Yeah, I'm with that one.
I don't know.
Really nice.
Maybe with what we have at the moment.
That's really nice. Because you're starting off also with a brilliant coffee.
Yeah. But then this is step one.
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic. Yeah.
And
if they've had 20 more minutes a week, I'm sure.
And are we there with espresso?
Marco logo on the front of it.
Are we there with our 24-second extraction espresso at the moment? You know, is that perfect? Could we do something better?
Yeah.
So I think
it's great that it's been paid.
We're asking the questions. That's the key one. It's asking the questions. So, which leads us very nicely on to talking about these Mojos.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
we do a little disclosure thing. So basically,
you got yours for free and everybody else had to pay for theirs. Is that with the disclosure?
That's pretty much it. So Steve, you bought one.
Yeah.
And
then got you one for free.
Pretty much, which I had no hesitation in accepting.
I bought mine.
I work the SCAE Gold Cup.
I know. I'm the project leader for SCAE Gold
Project
Cup.
leader, education committee.
I rang Vince and
I
I
don't
said,
have one.
I said,
He knows more than all of us put together.
So I rang Vince and I said, Vince, give us one, I want to try one, you know. And we spoke for a long time. Anybody who's spoken to Vince will have spent quite a bit of time on the phone. And get him to call you. But he's a fascinating guy, you know. He's really passionate, you know. And he's been great to talk to. And so anyway, he made me buy the bloody thing, so I did. I got the software for free, thanks Vince. And so I got it.
Yeah, he does that one, and everybody gave me the software
Did
free
he?
as well.
Just
Yeah.
give me the.
You paid for the software, did you? You paid $4,000 for the software, did you? But what I wanted to do was, besides just learning about it, I wanted to consider it for the SCAE, for the Gold Cup, to use it rather than the TDS stick, which is currently being used. And so that's really where I was coming from with it. And to be honest, I think it's a good bit of kit. It has its flaws, like all of us, you know, but except it. And
Superhead to superhead.
More cuss words. Jeez.
So what we're going to do is we have a concern, right? The concern is very clear, and that's about the repeatability of the accuracy and also how the devices measure up. And we know there's variances. Vince has been straight up about that, but it's a great tool, and we're going to see what the variances are. Do it right now and see what we get and see where it is. But we have had some issues. We're going to continue to play with it and bring it on. It's great that people are talking about it, measuring brewed coffee properly, you know. And bring it on.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
so what we're going to do now is we're just going to
tip
set up. So we're going to knock on pause again. We're going to set up. We've calibrated the brewers already, and sorry,
Tamper Tantrum.
we've calibrated them already. So we're going to start, and then we'll be straight back. So give us 2 minutes.
Sorry about that. just a bit previous. Well, why not? Let's wipe and clean, just to be clear. Yeah.
Yeah, because they can see yours is dirty.
Off we go. Let's go. Okay, so what we've done earlier on is we've calibrated these at exactly the same time, using distilled water, purified water, to make sure that they were calibrated together, reading the same. We're using the same alcohol swab. We're using a lint wipe as supplied by Vince.
The family that swabs together stays
So
together.
there you go. So now we have 2 digital refractometers, and they've been calibrated for the temperature that this room is at as well. And the way we calibrate it is you have to leave a sample of purified water for about 2 or 3 minutes and then calibrate, which we've done. Now, this is a sample of the Chemex we brewed earlier.
Give it a stir.
Give it a stir.
Why are you stirring it?
Stirring it on, number 1, on instruction from Vince, but also...
You do everything Vince says.
well, if you talk to him, you know you'll have to.
I know I have, yeah, you do.
But it's also just, I suppose, to mix up. And the danger here on the readout is if there's any suspended solids in here, they will clog the eye of the refractometer, and therefore adjust the reading is the worry.
Double dip in here.
I welcome any input from Dave, the scientist, here now as well.
Well, I think the problem with suspended solids is you're going to be getting reflected light, not refracted light, which is going to affect the reading.
And here comes the moment of truth.
Maybe we'll go put a tiny bit more just to...
Oh, now it's all ruined.
Oh, there we go.
All ready? And you press read, and I'm getting 1.32.
1.39.
1.39. Now, this was brewed around, it must be nearly an hour ago we did that first Chemex. And so this is very much at room temperature. We're at the eye at room temperature. We leave it for another minute or so and we press again. Now that variance is absolutely within Vince's guidelines, which is around about he says up to 0.1 of a variance reading. So the key thing about that, you see 1.32 versus 1.38. By the way, 1.32 versus 1.38 on the software would really indicate on that brew, which is 60 grams per litre, is pretty much Gold Cup standard coffee, well extracted. It's right, it's treating correctly. Different variances in that this one would read 1.38 would read slightly upper right of the box, which means it's a little bit stronger, a little bit more extracted. This would read as being pretty much in the middle, a little bit less extracted. And I think the message, mine's now 1.34, 1.38, so we're getting closer together. But I think that the key message here is that it's a great tool for targeting where your brew is. And what we've got to do is realise that it's still about matching it with your palate,
Yeah, I think
Let's swap samples.
That's what we should do as well. But I think are we doing that? But if you are we gonna wipe this off?
I'll wipe yours if you wipe mine.
Beautiful, beautiful image.
Right, we're going to
this
swap
is probably
samples.
against all the rules, but still,
Yeah.
we're going to do it just for.
This is just for pig iron.
It's
Just
just for shiggles.
this is to
Oh,
see
it's all about
Oh.
cuss words now, isn't it?
the,
It's all
the big
changed.
lads.
We
Yeah.
couldn't flick the bird last time, but we can.
This is to see if we get. Now, interestingly, we swapped samples, and Collins is still reading a 0.03 above mine.
So mine is always higher than yours, is that right?
So that might have just got to do with variance within the machine. 0.4.
So,
Yeah, so maybe this is what we're saying is that there's each machine shows an accuracy, this is what Vince is saying, to 0.06, okay? Which is okay, but if you establish that the 0.06 can be different at different extremes for each one, so effectively you have you can have a 1.2 variance between each machine. So that's kind of the big
But if
problem.
you take the ability to measure coffee in the field to 0.06 of, not 0.06%, 0.06 TDS, percent TDS I should say, then that's pretty good accuracy as well.
so what we're saying is this is not yet the answer. It's like a TDS meter that there are some variances that don't make it an exact science,
Yeah.
but it's a map to take us to the right place.
Some of the readings that we were getting, and myself and Dave played with it, and myself and Paul played with it as well. Some of the readings we were getting were wildly different.
Yeah, for me it's a great step forward from the stick meter in terms of portability, speed of use, and being able to be able to benchmark your brew against your palate and see what you can do to correct it. So it gives you somewhere to be and move from that. I think that there's a danger, and I'd say Vince would back this up. There's a danger that what happens with a lot of talk on the internet is people read about this thing as perfection.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily perfection, but it's a really good tool.
It goes
And
back to what we were saying earlier. When you don't necessarily know something inside and out, then it's very easy to kind of sneer and go, oh, And
Yeah.
I think that there's a danger of that with this. I think there's also a danger of taking it the other way and saying that it is quite, precision and all of these things, which I don't think it quite. And as long as you take it as that, it's a fantastic tool. It's a really good tool.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of take it with that. Those variances are in there, and that variance can be the difference between, with two machines, could be the difference between a really good cup and a not so good
That's
cup.
why the palette is so important to benchmark against.
So it seems that is it consistently my one is reading a little higher than yours?
Yours really a little higher than mine. I don't know. Vince might be able to help us with that. But I mean, the issue for me, which would worry me a little bit, is that the variance between them was so high on a couple of the sample brews we did, then it would make you worry about it. Might while it's a great indicator, maybe it's indicating in the wrong way to someone who's not trained from palate point of view.
1.2 on that scale is
1.2 is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's 1.2 out of what is it like? The reading should be 1.3. So 1.2 of that can really to what? 2.5.
Yeah.
You know the maths. You're the scientist.
0.12.
Yeah. Who says what now? He's lost me again.
So welcome to Tamper Tantrum.
But it's a step forward, and
It's
at
a
least
great
we're
step
actually
forward.
measuring.
Yeah.
We're measuring our coffee. For a roaster, I think it's a tool that you really must have.
Yeah, I still recommend it.
And I think for a brewing manufacturer like yourselves, it's a must have.
Absolutely.
There isn't. The other thing that I have to say is that when I started using it, every time I went back and asked Vince, there was something that I wasn't doing.
Yeah.
So we're completely open to Vince coming back and telling us how to do it.
I mean, user error.
Let's learn.
Let's. This is Mark 1, 2, Mark 1. Let's kind of this. I'm sure he's going to get better. We're going to be doing
Yeah,
more.
but this is the thing, because I mean, it's like you ever watch your man, what's his name, Jeremy Clarkson, he slags off solar powered cars and stuff. But like, they might be crap now, but in 10 years' time they're going to be brilliant.
I know,
And this is a good step, and
Yeah.
I think.
I don't think the problem is with the meter necessarily. Like I believe those meters are precision devices, they're accurate. I just wonder about the suitability of
Let's
this
measure
type
yours.
of reading to coffee.
Yeah, I agree.
Because even paper filtered coffee is not a completely homogeneous solution.
Yeah.
There's still going to be gradients of suspended particles of stuff like that in it that is going to throw off the reading. And
Yeah.
Somebody said earlier about let's do this with vodka, or was it you said?
Dave said that,
yeah.
Let's do this with vodka, and I think that might be kind of quite interesting, because then you may be in a place where this is an exact science, and but at least we're doing something to try and.
The other thing for me is that
But TDS meters are a lot cheaper, I think, is the other part.
well, like, no matter what
Yeah.
survey you're doing, like whether you're asking 1,000 people or 100 people, or whether you're taking, the bigger your sample area is, the more accurate you become. Like,
Don't think so.
That's seems.
so what we're getting now is 1.7 to
1.68. So
Very
they're reading close.
Does that say that's over extracted?
Well, now hang on a second. It's saying it's over extracted based on the current chart, if that chart is correct.
Did it taste over extracted?
Didn't taste over extracted to me.
You said it tasted under extracted.
It tasted to me as if it was really bright up front and not over extracted to me. But hey, I'm not a cupper. What did it taste like to you guys?
I mean, I felt it was a bit under extracted, so the result surprises me.
There you go. But I mean, the thing
that's what it's reading.
But the thing is reading from consistent 1.66 to 1.67.
I think that might come down to.
Is that the same one again?
No, this is the Buckner
that's-
flask.
Okay, right.
So I think that might come down to the peaks getting closer and you're getting less of the contribution of the bitters. So it's not tasting over extracted,
Okay, yeah.
but it's
Extracted.
evidently over extracted, according to the.
There's so much to learn.
In conclusion, we know nothing.
And I think this is probably the first of a few times that we work with the Mojos,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because I mean, certainly
I
on
think that's a good thing to
these,
do.
I think we need to learn more. We need to kind of get the software, and I think we need to go back to Vince and talk to Vince, and he
Yeah,
can.
they need to sponsor Tamper Tantrum kids.
Well, the
I
great
think
thing
they
is,
already have with the free refractometer.
Touche.
Yeah.
some smarty pants is going to email you and tell you what we did wrong.
Yeah.
So what?
Good. I look forward to
Bring it
it.
on.
Idiots at tampertantrum.com whenever you find
Yeah.
out what we've done wrong. So.
This has been a mega long, kind of, very interesting, good fun for us to do. Kind
It
of.
is,
I hope if you've got to this part of the video, well done.
Round of applause.
Yeah, well done for the audience.
Well done for not giving in.
You really got to get out more though.
And I've really got to stop video editing for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Can we talk about it next month?
Yeah, let's talk about
Are
next
you
month.
committing to that now?
Oh no, not yet.
No.
No, we best not talk about next month. I need to talk to Mrs. Hasbeen first.
Okay. Potentially exciting next month.
Yeah, potentially divorce, home wrecking next month.
They will marry you. Be fine.
Yeah.
So.
Cook.
Coffee counts as cooking.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right, so until next month, thank you very much, and thank you very much to our two esteemed guests.
Thanks for being here, boys.
Yeah, thanks for
It's
coming.
great. Thanks a million for
Good
coming.
time. Alright, so we'll see you
Who's
next
on
month.
cleanup?
I'm going down Louisiana, gonna get me a mojo to